reflecting the difficulties of the times that we're in right now with the pandemic, and I want to thank the manager for finding a way to do it. This budget will generate approximately, the property tax portion will generate approximately 82 million for the general budget, and then another 6 million for the capital, which year over year is an increase put together of about $4 million, and it's about $4 million that worth of property tax that is accountable for our property value increase. Additionally, we're hiring more police officers, and that was the second goal that I was hopeful that we'd get, and the manager and the police chief put forward a plan that is spectacular for the hiring of additional police officers. And last, I have assurances both from the city manager and from the police chief that there will be more community patrols from one end of the city to the other. Every community, whether it is a homeowner association or an open community, will have additional community patrols, and that the number of community patrols by community will be counted and they will be reportable. And I want to thank the police chief for finding a way to please the residents of the city who have been asking for that very thing. They look forward to the additional support in their communities, and so I am very happy to support this budget. It has all the components that I was looking for and that the people that I represent were looking for. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody?
Yes, Mayor.
Mr. Schwartz.
City Manager Dodge, could you advance your screen? There's a graph I wanted to highlight quickly. That one. There we go. Okay. If we take a look at the last 9 years, 2013, 12-13 budget through today, if you look at the total millage rate at the very bottom, for all but 1 year, the total millage has gone down in this city. This isn't a COVID budget. This is a fiscally responsible budget to the residents of our city. Every year since 2012-13, the total millage rate has gone down. With respect to the hard work that the administration put in, I want to thank all the department directors who've put their best foot forward. I want to thank staff for having gone through an extremely difficult year, working from home and dealing with the pandemic and still performing. Our police department in particular has done an outstanding job, and they continue to do an outstanding job. And I believe that the fact that we might be tracking communities now versus before doesn't mean that they weren't in your community, because our crime stats indicate as such. Crime is at its lowest level since I've been up here. There is certainly tremendous stress on our fire department in the last year and a half that they've gone through, day in, day out. The pandemic has not given them any relief. I worry about you every day. Our community is thankful to our first responders. Park and Recreation, you've put your best foot forward despite cancellation after cancellation after cancellation. Don't fret. We'll be back to normal as soon as normal presents itself. I can tell you that there is nothing. There's nothing that makes me more proud as a resident. It's being stopped in over at Publix or just down the street, and they say, you know what, I love this city. And that's a collective sum of all parts. We've gone through a lot in the last year and a half. This is actually my favorite time of the year, which is the budget. The manager continues to provide sound, reasonable, fiscal responsible budgets. In years past, we've asked for rabbits. That farm is pretty big. But overall, Mayor, thank you for doing everything you've done over the last year. You've been even at the ribbon cuttings, you've been holding the ship down for all of us. And I just want to personally thank you for those efforts. And I look forward to, hopefully in the next few weeks, I don't know if Christina Sorensen can do anything to make things better, but certainly Santa Claus is on its way, and the fire truck and all that good stuff. So I'm hoping we can get to that this year. Yes. Oh, Santa's coming. I just want to see Santa on that fire truck. That's all.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thanks so much.
Further discussion?
Mr. Mayor.
Vice Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and, I too agree with my colleagues in regards to what the city manager and the city staff has done in regards to the budget. Holding our millage rates at least consistent and a little bit lower. We are a big city, and we have, big city issues, and, we continue to be challenged with providing the services that our community comes to expect. I do only have one comment about the budget, and it goes with the addition of staffing that we're doing. We're doing 11 additional staff, and it's all with the police department, which I know is a need. But the one position that I'm really focused on, because it is a continued comment that's made by at least the constituents that I serve in District 1, are code compliance folks. And I see that we have a code compliance police service aide. So can I get just a brief explanation of what is that position?
The chief will be down to describe that to you.
Kip Shimpano, Chief of Police. That is your code officer. We actually certify them as police service aides for use in other needs when necessary for an emergency, for hurricane, but they are your code compliance officers. So we are adding one.
Okay. Do these folks also have the responsibility, say if there's an accident and cleanup and things like that, that they're to stay at the scene, manage traffic in any way or anything of that nature?
They really are strictly assigned to code enforcement. Even during the hurricanes, they have job ahead of time with the debris and everything. But that's their primary job. They're based out of this building, and they are a code officer.
Okay, very good. Thank you for that. It's a good clarity. I still want to place the emphasis that, I'm in agreement with the budget, but I still would like to see more code compliance officers, in your department, so to say, because still one doesn't seem to meet the need of what I hear about the number of, they do a lot of citations, they do a lot of processing and things of that nature. And the unfortunate thing nowadays is they get bogged down with a lot of paperwork, and they still have a tendency to not be able to put the boots on the ground to see the things that they should be seeing, because the commonality that I get is, I can see it, why can't others see it, that it is their responsibility? And I'm sure, and we share with them, we are thin, right? We have a very large city and only a certain number of code officers that are able, code compliance. You call them code compliance officers?
That is correct.
Okay. So the code compliance officers are, having a lot of territory to cover, along with a lot of administrative work. So again, I just want to make that comment. In future years, that's certainly, again, my advocacy is for more code compliance officers. So thank you very much, sir.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I'd like to make a couple of comments. City Manager, congratulations to you and the Finance Director for putting together a great budget. Plus, I know it takes all of the department heads to put that together as well. And we're a big city, 39 miles. That's what we are. And depending if you talk to Mr. Stam or not, it could be 160 or 200,000 in our city. But our police department is hiring another 11 police department, a great fire department, a great heroes, a recreation department. People have to recreate. They have to do it. And we have the best trying to make that happen. the one question I have is, do you remember when the retirees went and rode around in a police car to shopping centers and made sure that people were parking properly and not violating and speeding? Do you remember those?
Yeah, they're citizen on patrol, they're all volunteers, and still
You ever
are,
see them coming back?
as soon as we can get the COVID numbers down. Most of them are in a certain class that we'd rather not have them
Yeah, you're
doing
right.
that yet.
I
but
can
we
give you one
sure do
shopping
miss them and
center.
want them back.
I can give you one shopping center you could start at.
I'm sure.
Would that be Westport?
Well, thank you, Chief.
You're welcome.
Thank you again, Mr. Dodge, thank you. Further discussion? All right, hearing none. Call the rolls, City Clerk.
Commissioner Castillo?
Yes.
Commissioner Schwartz?
Yes.
Commissioner Seifel?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Good?
Yes.
Mayor Ordus?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Mayor and
Thank
Commissioner,
you.
if I
Thank
can,
you.
for the record, that item is BH1, and I have to read into the record the answer to the question that the Department of Revenue may ask, and Lisa, correct me if I'm incorrect, but the city's operating millage rate shall be set at 5.6690, which is greater than the rollback rate of 5.4333 mils by 4.34%, and the proposed debt service millage rate is 0.4159. The second and final public hearing will be conducted in these chambers at 6:00 p.m. on September 22nd, 2021. And if the Department of Revenue is listening, we've given you all the information required by Section 200.065 of the Florida statutes, followed by the next item, Mayor, which is BH number 2, with your permission.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Number 2 is BH number 2 is a motion to adopt proposed ordinance number 2021-18 on first reading, which is an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Pembroke Pines, Florida, adopting the budget for the fiscal year 2021-2022 and adopting the 5-year capital improvement program for the City of Pembroke Pines, Florida, in accordance with Section 5.08 of the City Charter, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, and finally providing for an effective date. That's BH number 2, 2021-18 on the floor. Thank you, Mayor.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Seifel, is there a second? Second by Commissioner Schwartz, discussion. Hearing none, City Clerk, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Seifel?
Yes.
Commissioner Schwartz?
Yes.
Commissioner Castillo?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Good?
Yes.
Mayor Ordus?
Yes.
Motion passes.
And for the record, Mayor and Commission, the statute requires that we also announce on the record for the members of the public and those of concern on the subject that the second and final public hearing on the budget, along with the millage ordinances recently adopted by the Commission on first reading, will be conducted at the second and final public hearing, which is at the same time, the second and final public hearing in these chambers scheduled for Wednesday, September 22, 2021, at the time established for that hearing, which is the same as for the millage that same evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, we are now paused until 6:30.
Actually, Mayor, this one you can continue.
Oh, we can? I was told the other way.
This
No
is a
problem.
segue start
I
from the
misunderstood.
conclusion.
All right.
Correct.
Let's call our regular meeting to order, and roll call, City Clerk.
Commissioner Castillo?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Good?
Yes.
Commissioner Schwartz?
Yes.
Commissioner Seifel?
I'm here.
Mayor Ordus?
Here.
City Manager Dodge?
Here?
City Attorney Gorham?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Let's stand for Pledge of Allegiance, led by Commissioner Schwartz.
Thank you, Mayor. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, thank you. All right, Mr.
Good job.
Daniel Son, are you here? Would you come forward, please? Good evening, sir. Pardon me for not coming down right next to you and reading this, but because of the times, we have to do it this way. All right, this is a Florida Civics Week proclamation from the city of Pembroke Pines. Whereas municipal government is the government closest to the people and the one with the most direct daily impact upon its residents. And whereas municipal government provides services and programs that enhance the quality of life for residents, making their city their home. And whereas municipal government is administered for and by its citizens, and it's dependent upon public commitment to and understanding of its many responsibilities, including direct participation in the democratic process. And whereas municipal government officials and employees share the responsibilities to pass along the understanding of the services provided by their municipalities and their benefits. And whereas representative government is dependent on the exercise of the privileges and responsibilities of its citizens. And whereas civic and political participation remains the medium in which citizens engage in free, diverse, and positive political dialogue that guides our nation toward common interests, consensus, and good governance. And whereas it is a public interest for our nation's leaders to foster civic discourse, education, and participation in federal, state, and local affairs. And whereas the advent of revolutionary internet technology offers new mechanisms for empowering our citizens and fostering greater civic engagement than at any time in our history. And whereas the use of new technologies can bring people together in civic forums, educate citizens on their roles and responsibilities, and promote citizen participation in the political process through volunteerism, voting, and elevation of diverse voices in public discourse. And whereas Florida Civics Week is a very important time to recognize the significant role played by municipal government in our lives, and to spread the word to all Floridians that they can shape and influence the level of government. Now, therefore, I, Frank C. Ortiz, by the authority vested in me as the mayor of the city of Pembroke Pines, do hereby recognize the week of September 13th and 17th, 2021 as Florida Civics Week in the city of Pembroke Pines, and encourage all residents to honor civic engagement by participating in educational activities and community service. Mr. Son, congratulations.
Yay.
Would you identify yourself and say a few words? You have to push it.
Good evening, Mayor. No, hit the button.
Yeah, hit the button that says speak.
Where's the button?
Right in front of you. No.
Oh, hit it
No.
again.
There you go. There it is.
Well, good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and to my colleagues on the dais. It has been a while since we've seen each other, and so it's good to be back here in South Florida for the celebration of this inaugural event. My name is Daniel Sohn. I am the proud founder and executive director of the Florida Center for Civic Engagement. Thank you for recognizing the first annual Florida Civics Week program. Today, because of you, this annual statewide celebration of the civics process is finally a reality. 2 years ago, when I set out on a journey to build the foundation for a statewide entity focused on increasing civic participation through civic engagement, I knew that the governments closest to the people would organically become the Florida Center for Civic Engagement's unofficial partners in this process, and subsequently our allies to achieve our mutual goals in the community. As I travel the state, talking with governments just like yours, I am in awe of the beauty of the chambers where the people's work is done. I have to tell you that this chamber is breathtaking. I have not seen it since you built this new building, so congratulations.
Thank you.
And as I go around the state, I get more and more excited about how many people will enter these chambers for the first time, and because of the programs that we offer as a resource to your community for civic education. Thank you, City of Pembroke Pines, for leading on your commitment to educate your constituents on the civic process through this recognition. Joining the City of Pembroke Pines are several other local governments, including 3 county commissions from across the state of Florida, who are participating in this inaugural event. For a list of participating organizations, you can go to floridacivicweek.com. I'd personally like to thank Commissioner Castillo for your assistance of getting this done and recognized with the City of Pembroke Pines, and of course, my friend Mayor Ortiz, for your willingness to highlight the importance of being engaged in the civic process inside the chamber and outside of it. I'd also like to recognize Ryan Terrell, who is in the audience today. Ryan is FCCE's Community Engagement Coordinator, and he has worked very hard to make the inaugural event across the state such a success. Next year, the Florida Center for Civic Engagement will begin to roll out programming during the Florida Civics Week to work on with your residents. I look forward to continued discussions with you and your staff in partnership and those discussions. And so with that, I say thank you. Thank you for recognizing the program, and I yield back. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, what a good thing.
Our next presentation is the Kendall Ellis Day. Can you come forward? Are they here?
Is that her, Kendall?
No, okay, I'll just read it, and then if they come,
Mayor, I think?
Yes.
Is that Kendall?
Kendall? Nope. All right. This is Kendall Ellis Day. Whereas Kendall Ellis was born in Pembroke Pines, Florida on March 8, 1996, to Wanda and Sam Ellis. I'm sorry? Oh, well, we'll wait. We'll wait. All right, let's
Mayor,
go on, and
Mayor,
then when they come, we'll go ahead.
Mayor,
What?
while we're waiting, giving her a few minutes if she's on her way, could you, talk a little bit about our 9/11 ceremony that we had?
Yeah. We had a very, very good, and remembering 9/11 on Saturday. Our hats are off to all of our staff, Parks and Recreation, Francine Noble, Christine Sorensen, always do such a great job. We had it at our Veterans Park right here at City Center, and it was 8:30 to 9:30, and we had had about 400 people that morning, and we had bikers, a group of bikers, come by and join us, about 30, 40 bikers. And what we want to do is make sure that this city never forgets 9/11. And we will not. We will not. We will continue to have a ceremony every 9/11, every September 11th. And the heroes, our first responders, are tremendous. They go forward rather than backwards. And we're so proud of them. And we had a guest speaker, Izanato, his name was. And he was retired from the New York Fire Department. And he lived to tell us the peril that happened that day and how he had to retire with complications to his body. And I remember watching a TV program the night before when they talked about the survivors of 9/11, and they saw what was particularly interesting to me was a young man named Sam Irons. His helmet was 273, and he used to carry a pick, a sledgehammer, and a crowbar to break into things when needed. So he responded to the South Tower that morning, and now they're playing his recording. And he says, they're calling him, Sam, I'm on 28th, a little further, and you can hear him out of breath. I'm on the 48th. This is carrying all of those tools. And then the building collapsed, and he died. His son took over where he left off. Same number, same pick, same shovels. It's just remarkable. So if you ever get a chance to go see the new center, please do it. I've been there, very emotional. So Commissioner Seipel, you're absolutely right. It was a great ceremony.
It was, Mayor, and one comment that I heard quite a number of times that day, as well as speaking to people afterwards, and I kind of felt it myself, and I just thought maybe it was just me, because, you know, I kind of get a little emotional at things like that, it was where the actual covering is and where the statues are. You know, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. It's just beautiful. But on that day, on last Saturday, on 9/11, it seemed to be exceptionally beautiful, exceptionally warming, exceptionally inviting, and I don't know how else to describe it except it's always been beautiful, but it was exceptionally beautiful. And I heard a number of people make that same comment and said, there was just sort of a different feeling, and it just seemed so beautiful, not that it's not always, but that particular day when we were all there. And so I don't know if it had something to do with it being the 20th anniversary, being more of a special day for it, or if that was just really it. It was just really emitting these feelings to everybody. But I know, like I said, I know a good number of folks made that same comment to me, and I was kind of thinking to myself when I was before the ceremony started, I was walking around looking, I'm thinking, did something change in here? Because it seems a little different. Did something actually change in here? And it's the same as what it's been, but it was just a very, very, very special day for all of us that were there. So, Mayor, I just want to make sure that we brought that up and let everybody know that we have it there and they can go and visit it anytime that they choose to. It's not just on 9/11, and you can go and see if you think it feels real special to you as well. So, but thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Yes.
Anyone else?
Yes.
Commissioner Castillo.
Yeah, thank you. It was by far the best, one of these memorials, and we've been to many of them, different holidays through the years, over many years. It was probably the best organized one that I've been to. It was just incredibly well done. And the children in particular, the way they participated by singing and their presence there, it just lent a whole different dimension to the event. We've had children involved in this event before, but it was a special day. And even the weather cooperated. Usually the 9/11 outdoor events are a little bit uncomfortably warm. It wasn't like that at all this particular day. So everything sort of lined up to make this 20th anniversary commemoration of this horrible day very, very special, and I'm very, very thankful for that. Mayor, I know that others will want to comment as well, but we have present with us, and I know that we have a busy evening tonight. We have present with us residents from Century Village who made a great effort to be here tonight for items 13 and 15, and if there is not an objection.
Yeah, not right now, though, Commissioner. I see that. I'll bring it up.
Okay, thank you very much.
At this point.
I appreciate that.
Thank you. Let's say hello to Kendall. Hi. Where is she? I just saw her. There she is. Okay. All right, could you come forward? Could you come over to the podium? I'm sorry I can't come down next year with this COVID, stuff like that. But you have made our city proud. I appreciate it. They mentioned Pembroke Pines in Tokyo. Yeah. They did. Very proud to represent. Thank you guys for the support. Thank you for the congrats. Thank you very, very much. All right, if you could come to the microphone and just give us your name.
Could you press it for her, please?
What do I do? There you go. Hi, everyone. I'm Kendall Ellis. I competed in Tokyo for the women's 4x400 meter relay and the mixed 4x400 meter relay, earning a bronze for the mixed.
Look at that.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you.
No, we have to give you a plaque. Kendall, again.
Mayor, does it have bronze on it?
It does. It
does.
It actually looks more like gold, but.
Actually, it's gold. So you're going to get a gold and a bronze. Kendall, really, it's a pleasure for the city of Pembroke Pines to honor Kendall Ellis Day. Whereas Kendall Ellis was born in Pembroke Pines, Florida, on March 8th, 1996. Boy, you're young. To Wanda and Sam Ellis. Are they here? Would you stand, please? She has two older sisters, Courtney and Kimberly. Kendall attended Pembroke Pines Charter School, West Elementary and Middle Schools. She graduated from St. Thomas Aquinas High School in 2014, the University of Southern California in 2017, and Devery Keller Graduate School in 2021 with a master's degree in business. Whew. She still hit a ball. And whereas Kendall Ellis competed in the Tokyo Olympics for Team USA in the inaugural 4x4 mixed relay, as well as the prelims for the women's 4x4 relay, earning her bronze and gold Olympic medals. And whereas Kendall began running at the age of 7 and started to take the sport seriously near the end of high school. Her track career began as a member of the AAU Pines team, with her training grounds being Walter C. Young and Flanagan High Fields. And whereas Kendall is a 14-time Division I All-American, 5-time PAC-12 conference champion, 4-time NCAA champion, collegiate and American record holder, and both a 2-time world champion and Olympic medalist. Yeah. And whereas beyond track and field, Kendall's future ambitions include working in public policy. Oh, that's great. While spearheading a nonprofit mentorship program for young women. She comes from a family where giving back was always emphasized, and whereas the city of Pembroke Pines congratulates Kendall for her outstanding athletic achievements at the recent Tokyo Olympics and appreciates the fine publicity you have brought to our community. We are so proud of our Pembroke Pines Olympian. Now therefore, Frank Ciortis, by the authority vested in me as mayor of the city of Pembroke Pines, Florida, on behalf of the city commission, do hereby proclaim September 13th, 2021 as Kendall Ellis Day in the city of Pembroke Pines, and wish her the very best in the future.
Mayor?
Mom, the only thing I want to ask you, when she ran from you, did you ever catch her?
Mayor? Yes,
Right.
Kendall,
Thank
I'm particularly, I'm always out there for the ladies, right? So I'm particularly interested in maybe having a conversation with you about your mentorship for young women and how we can expand that perhaps here in the city of Pembroke Pines. So can we contact? You can get information and contact? Okay. And Mayor, I have one last question, if I could.
Go ahead.
I'd like to ask her parents, Wanda and Sam, how does it feel to be the parent of this extraordinary young lady? Can they come up and answer that question?
Come on up. Come on up.
I mean, that's pretty extraordinary. The list of accomplishments that she has are unbelievable. You need to hit the button so the red light will come on. Oh, there it is. Okay.
I don't want to cry in front of the crowd, but I am.
You're allowed.
You can.
I'm so proud of Kendall, and we are just so thankful to you guys for recognizing her and acknowledging her achievements. Kendall is extremely disciplined. She's a hard worker, and she has just been very determined. And she was extremely determined and focused this year on making the team. And we're so proud of her and all of her accomplishments. And it started way back when she was 7 years old, and her AAU coach is here. He was her AAU coach as well as her high school coach.
Wow.
And he's like a second dad to Kendall, Alex Armenteros.
Oh, wow. It's not often that a city can say we have a medaled Olympic medal winner in our city that's a resident of our city. That's quite an accomplishment, quite pride for us.
And she was born here.
And she was born.
Well, I would just like to say that a lot of times when kids go off to college, and I'm one of those kids who did that, when you go off to college and you're from a small town, you tend to say, I'm from the next largest town.
Right.
That's something Kendall's never done. She's always said, I'm from Pembroke Pines.
There you go.
As she should. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So we'll hook up,
Thank you,
okay?
congratulations.
Thank you.
Wow, fabulous. Mayor, what, is that just truly unbelievable? That's just
All right, Commissioner Castillo, we can bring that item now?
Yes, if we could, without objection, out of order, bring up items 13 and 15, please.
Okay, without objection, go ahead.
Mayor, if you,
City Attorney?
if I may, thank you, Mayor. Item 13 and 15 are inextricably legally tied and operationally tied. If you like, I will now read into the record the second and final reading on the ordinance number 2021-16 with your permission, Mayor and Commission. It's a motion to pass proposed ordinance number 2021-16 on second and final reading, which is an ordinance of the City of Pembroke Pines, Florida, vacating, closing, and abandoning the road right-of-way for existing Southwest 136th Avenue, described in the survey sketch and legal description attached here too, and made a part hereof as Exhibit A. Reserving unto the City of Pembroke Pines a utility easement for that portion of the vacated right-of-way, providing for recordation, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Castillo, is there a second?
second.
Second by Commissioner Seipel. Discussion.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I do.
Go
have
ahead, Vice Mayor.
questions. Thank you. Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you very much. This is such a wonderful opportunity for Century Village to be able to enhance their community. I'm very interested in that property and some of the additional development that we have going around, to the point that I've even asked the city manager to provide with some, what were some park amenities that are within the area where this particular property is, because we're about ready to deed it over. And we know we can't use it as a right-of-way. That's what it originally was for. So, I mean, we know years ago the northern part of 136th Avenue was already, vacated. But that does, create a great opportunity for a park. And we have new development that's on 145th Avenue. There are apartment complexes. We just, I believe, approved or will be approving another rather large apartment complex on 145th Avenue. And this area would be right close proximity, being able to serve some of our other residents within the city. But I do know how important this property is to Century Village. And I do want Century Village to enjoy it as a park and as for them. So I did ask some additional questions regarding, the vacating of the property and then, of course, the agreement. So one of the things I do need to get on the record with our attorney, there seems to be a little bit of language that I would like to have just clarified for the record, and that is that when we talk about the vacating of the property, we're talking about entering into a negotiated agreement, a land use agreement. And then when we look at item 15, it's not a land use agreement, it is a developer's agreement. So I just need the city attorney to clarify that that language is consistently appropriate, in that even though it says a land use agreement, and we are approving later a developer agreement, that they are the one and the same, because it is very important for my next point.
May I respond, Mr. Mayor?
City Attorney.
The answer is they are synonymous legally in the context of both being legally and inextricably tied each to the other, Mr. Vice Mayor. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. So I go to the fact that, this property, there's been discussion on this for a very long time, since 2017. And, for whatever reason, we fast forward to today, and we're back to that same point where there's, a 3-year opportunity to convert this into a park. And then one of the things that I did ask the attorney, and I just want to clarify again, that the development of this property into a park is only for a park, and it is in perpetuity. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And if it no longer is a park, then it does revert back to the city so that the city has the use of that property again. Is that correct?
May I respond, Mr. Mayor?
Please, City.
If the commission approves the ordinance this evening and the developers agreement, land use agreement as contemplated by the next item, they are inextricably, that's a legal term, they are tied together and specifically requires that the conveyancing that would occur by virtue of the vacation would require the then owner of the property to develop it consistent with the city's code of ordinances, its land use plan, et cetera, into a linear park, which would subject the applicant to all kinds of reviews that are required by the city, and ultimately, over a 3-year period, complete that obligation. If, for example, after the 3rd year, or the 5th year, or the 10th year, for example, if the park was not to be consistent with the requirements of the developer's agreement or the ordinance, which run together, there is a reversionary provision both in the ordinance as well as in the document, and both of which will be recorded in the public record. So any third party who would even buy this property for any other thoughtful or unthoughtful purpose would be bound by that obligation.
Thank you, Mr. Attorney.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Yes, sir.
All right.
So I make the point that, again, I started this out by saying that this is a very important piece of property to the city. It can be utilized for, additional residents of the city, however, recognizing the need of the Century Village. I'm in support of that, and I'm in support of that, that it is met within the 3-year period, and that it stays a park forever and ever and ever to the benefit of the Century Village community. So I thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak my points, Mr. Mayor.
And it's been a long, long time, as you mentioned, and it's here. Mr. Moses, do you want to come to the podium for a moment? I know that President Hennessy is celebrating his birthday today.
What other better way to do it?
Right.
Give them a park.
Right. Vice President Moses, how are you?
Fine. Thank you.
Congratulations. I just wanted to know if you'd like to say a few words on behalf of your great residents for this park.
Seeing that this is my home, and it's been my home for 26 years, and I thank the Commission for what they're about to do for us, and that it is a central part, and it has to be beautiful, as many of the things that we have accomplished there. As I say, it's my home, and I want it to be beautiful. And I thank you for giving us the opportunity to do so.
Thank you. Appreciate it. All right, City Clerk, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Castillo?
Yes.
Commissioner Seifel?
Yes, of course.
Vice Mayor Good?
Yes.
Commissioner Schwartz?
Yeah.
Mayor Ordus?
Yes.
Motion passed.
For the record, Mayor and Commission, item number 15, is, for the record, the next item to be read into the record. You already approved number 13, correct, and that's the actual ordinance itself. That's number 1971. If I may read number 15, I'd appreciate that, Mayor and Commission.
Please.
15, for the record, is a motion to adopt proposed resolution number 2021-R34, which is a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Pembroke Pines, Florida, approving the developers agreement between the city and CVP Community Center Incorporated, attached here to is Exhibit A, and incorporated herein, providing for the design and construction of a linear park within the vacated right-of-way within 3 years of the vacation by the city, authorizing and directing the appropriate city officials to execute all required documents and to take any action necessary to effectuate the intent of the resolution, providing for a recordation, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, and finally, providing for an effective date.
So moved.
Number 15.
Moved by Commissioner Castillo.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Seifel. Discussion. Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Castillo?
Congratulations, yes.
Commissioner Seifel?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Good?
Yes.
Commissioner Schwartz?
Yes.
Mayor Ordus?
Yes.
Motion passed.
And for the record, Mayor and Commission, 3767.
Members, without objection, could I bring my item forward? I see residents here who would like to speak on it, if we could.
Sure.
Without objection.
Yes,
Vice Mayor, item 21.
Mayor, if I may read for you?
Go ahead, please.
It says, thank you, Mayor. Number 21 is the mayor's item. It's Mayor Ordus, item number 1. It's discussion and possible action on approving the Northwest 113th Avenue speed hump request to install a speed hump on the street identified herein in the backup as defined as Northwest 113th Avenue on the floor. Thank you, Mayor.
Vice Mayor? I just wanted to say that these people have come to me asking for the ability for us to put a speed hump in their neighborhood. They have gotten the required signatures. There are 4 police officers that live on that street. So I'm asking you, if we could approve the request of our residents. And Elliot's here. Did you want to come up and say a couple of words?
Mayor, I'll second your motion.
Oh, I didn't make the, I'm sorry. Vice Mayor, I'll make the motion.
Go ahead, Mr. Mayor. Motion made.
Second.
Second.
All right. Elliot? I'm sorry.
That's right.
You can push that button. Just identify yourself.
Good evening, everybody. How y'all doing today?
Good.
I'm a retired police officer, and I've been in the city now for about 8 years. I live on 113th Avenue, just west of Pembroke Lakes Elementary School.
Mm-hmm.
The issue that we've been having, since I got another neighbor that's present, is coming off 19th Street to go southbound 113th Avenue is one issue that we have people speed to cut through. Because Taft and Hiatus Street, there's no turning lane to make a right turn. So we have vehicles that decide to cut through, and they like to go over the speed limit quite a bit. You know, we personally watched, and like I said, there's other police officers that live in the neighborhood, my wife's included, that we see vehicles speeding tremendously. I know speed humps aren't the perfect best, but it's something that we can hopefully slow down some of the vehicles so kids don't get hurt. I got little kids, other little kids in the neighborhood. Also, during school hours, which is 10 months of the year, people decide they're late for school to drop off the kids, and they'll speed down the block also. I've personally seen it, and I have a lady that decided to give me finger gestures when I say, hey, slow down, please. So it's just an issue that we've had. Like I said, I got another neighbor here that's present that lives on the corner that's been there for 20-plus years that can address it also if necessary. So we appreciate your opportunity, appreciate the possibility. It's not the best, but at least give us something that we can slow down the traffic a little bit to help us out in that street. I appreciate it, folks.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else from the public who'd like to speak on this? No?
Good item, Mayor.
To the
Okay, Vice
commission?
Mayor, that's fine. Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
Commissioner Schwartz?
City Manager Dodge, I see Mr. Kennedy here. How quickly can this be installed?
I can't give you a time frame today, but we'll move as quickly as we can with it.
It's usually under 2 weeks when we approve these, usually.
I don't know if it's under 2 weeks, but we'll do our best to expedite it if it's fast.
So let's get it done in under 2 weeks, Mr.
Quick as
Dodge.
we can, for sure.
Okay,
All
Mr.
right.
Dodge, you got, do it as soon as you can. The question is, yes, Commissioner Castillo.
I spoke to the police chief, and everything that we have traditionally been able to do to help a community short of putting in a speed hump has been done. There have been patrols, there have been speed signs, there have been police presence, the engineers taking a look at it, and yet this continues. And I think that this is being done in the right way. We put a speed hump on a street as in my view, as an act of last resort. And we do that because it's going to slow down ambulances, and it's going to slow down police response and everyone else. But it's an effective way to deal with speeding. And so because everything has been put into place, and because the residents showed the support, because the police and the engineering department did everything that they need to do, I agree with you, sir. It's something we have to do. And hopefully that'll deal with the issue. My experience has been that very often it involves people within the very community, oddly enough. Sometimes it's speeders from outside of that community, but very often it involves kids or young people from within the community. And when that happens, I think it's important, if we can, to track down who those cars are, because they live in our own community. I'm not saying that that's the case here. So that police can actually knock on those doors and say, you know what? There's a car that looks an awful lot like yours that has been seen speeding around here, and if you can help us to find it. Community policing tactics exist that we can communicate with people without necessarily making an accusation. And very often those things help. And I took the time to look into the matter, and I want to thank the police chief for taking the time to explain it to me. And he wrote me a very, very good memo. and convinced me from top to bottom that everything has been done that could be done. And so this is the next appropriate step. So I feel comfortable supporting it.
Anyone else? I'd just like to say myself, I am a proponent of any traffic calming, physical traffic calming device you can put into the communities. One of the things that we've noticed as we have grown, we have brought, what you've built it, they will come. So we brought traffic with us. And whenever there's a identified cut through, you are going to be victimized by those folks who have learned it. And hopefully you're not on Waze or one of those other drive apps that show that when traffic is heavy on a highway, here, take this road, it's shorter, because sometimes they do that. So I 100% support this as well. So,
Vice Mayor, if I may.
Yes, Commissioner Schwartz.
Thank you. I guess it must have been, well, it was inside of a year. Your traffic hasn't changed. But I brought forward an item that allowed this to go forward by changing the sign-up percentage. So I believe, if my count is correct, Vice Mayor, I think this is the third. It's the third installation, but it's the second one within. You're on the north side, and we have one on the south side, basically the same area of Taft. So it is working. Again, looking for that installation in 2 weeks, right, Mr. Dodge?
I'm moving.
So no further questions. Madam Clerk, if you can make a roll call, please.
Mayor Ordus?
Yeah.
Commissioner Schwartz?
Yes.
Commissioner Seipel?
Yes.
Commissioner Castillo?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Good?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Congratulations, folks.
Mayor,
Yes,
that was a good item,
thank you.
I'm asking, could we bring my item 20, because we do have a number of residents that are here for item 20?
No.
Ha, ha, ha.
Okay, City Attorney, without objection?
May I read, Mr. Mayor, for the record, if you like? Then item number 20 is Commissioner Seipel's item. It's a motion to direct the city manager to prepare a report on all of the school traffic issues within the city of Pembroke Pines and to provide information for road improvements to include, but not to be limited to, queuing lanes, widening of roads, and recommending a funding source. That's item number 20. That's Commissioner Seipel's item.
Commissioner?
Yes, I need a second.
Commissioner Seipel made the
Yes.
motion. Commissioner Schwartz, second motion. Commissioner Seipel.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I placed this item on tonight's agenda in response to residents' requests. Waiting in line to drop off or pick up your child for 2 hours is certainly not acceptable. I am especially concerned about the frustration this fosters, as I have seen parents parked on the side of the road in the swale, and I watch their child cross the street to be picked up and certainly not using the safety of a crosswalk. That is a real health and safety issue. I have spent a great deal of time talking to many residents, meeting with our city manager, and having discussions with our city engineer, reviewing what options might be available to help remedy these traffic issues. I asked for a review of an initial, and I repeat that this is an initial, 4 locations: Johnson Street at 208, 196th Avenue at Pines Boulevard, 184th Avenue at Sheridan Street, and 196th Avenue at Taft Street. I know there are other locations that will need to be reviewed, but we must start somewhere. Many residents have asked why we allowed so many schools to be built so close to each other. And I would ask City Attorney if you would please explain the law on where schools can or cannot go.
City Manager?
City Attorney?
I'm sorry.
In the context of citing for schools?
Yes, sir.
In the context that there are state laws that govern the operation and location of schools, that is correct. City has some limited jurisdiction regarding that issue. The city has exercised in its experience the prerogative of doing so. But the issue of traffic maintenance and the things that affect traffic are vested in the city through the police department, which makes the challenge one of yours, certainly.
Correct, and it's my understanding that it's not impossible, it's almost impossible to not allow a school to be built or go into an existing building, and the recourse that and I hate to say recourse because that's kind of a negative thing, but the options then that a city would have would be the site plan issues and that stuff that you referred to, correct?
Yes, and
Okay.
the city, again, I use the word limited jurisdiction only to the extent of recognizing that the city commission is not a stranger to the process, but there are some protections given to schools as well.
Correct. And also that this is, applies to what I call like traditional public schools,
Correct.
Broward County, or any county, but Broward County Public School as well as any charter school. It's the same, it is the same because charter schools are really public schools
They're
as well.
legally public schools. They just
Okay.
operate in a different fashion under state law, correct?
Thank you, Attorney.
Yes, ma'am.
While we could not prohibit schools from being built, we were able to request certain limits such as school population size and agreements for busing students. Staff has been reviewing those agreements to ensure that all are in compliance. While in the past it was true that school traffic improved after the first 2 weeks or so, that is not the case anymore. Parents, schools, and nearby community residents are being negatively impacted during the entire school year. Residents that need to travel to work, shopping, or an appointment are blocked in and must wait it out for the traffic to move. We need more through lanes to move that type of traffic also. COVID has played a significant part in our school traffic problems. Many parents have chosen to not put their children on a school bus, but are instead driving them to school. Tonight's commission agenda is to start the process of finding solutions. It seems like there might be some immediate relief available for several locations. We are dealing mostly with city roads, so that does make the process a little easier, although there are still regulations that must be followed and other agencies are involved. So I'm going to ask our city engineer, Mr. Kennedy, to give us a little PowerPoint on, again, these are assessments of areas and areas that we are looking at with some possible solutions that we will talk about. Mr. Kennedy, if you would, please. The first that you will see are some videos and some photos that I took traveling along US 27, Johnson Street from US 27, 196 at Taft Street, and you'll see the others then, but those are the 2 videos. So thank you, Mr. Kennedy.
Good evening, it's Carl Kennedy, city engineer. I'm going to play a PowerPoint presentation. There'll be some videos up front that the commissioner had taken, as well as some pictures, and then there'll be a presentation of some preliminary ideas for the possibility to decrease some of the congestion. Unfortunately, this video is a little grainy, but you can see the line of cars going eastbound from 27 on Johnson Street.
And that goes from 27 down to 208.
Looks like a food drive.
It's not just there, it's all over the city.
And this is the second video. This is along 196, traveling southbound towards Taft Street.
That's our Chapel Trail Elementary area.
What time of day was that?
That was those were all, I tried to get them before school started, about 1:30-ish, 1:40-ish, before the afternoon pickup. I just put this in because I wanted the top one to see that our police department, thank you for putting up in certain areas.
196.
That would be, I'm trying to remember where this particular sign was.
I think that's 196 in Pines.
not that top one, the
Chief?
top one is not, the top one's on
Oh, Silver Trail.
Silver Trail, is by Silver Trail,
There's
correct.
another one there too.
The two bottom ones, the one to the left is actually, if you're coming northbound on 196 going towards Pines Boulevard, and the one to the right is, you're on Pines Boulevard, heading eastbound, you're gonna go south on 196, and you can see at, and again, like I said, I took most of them around 1:30, 1:45 or so in the afternoon, and school's not out till 2:20, 2:30, sometimes a little later, how they're already stacking up.
Okay, these are some of the roadways that we look to do improvements on, and these need to be studied further. These are just some very generic improvements that we looked at to begin with some order of magnitude budget estimates.
Mr. Kennedy, would you take your mask off so we can hear you just a little bit better, please?
Sure.
Thank you, if you don't mind. Thank you.
Okay. So the first intersection here is at 208 and Johnson Street. We have significant right-of-way along 208th Avenue that we can install additional asphalt and put more lanes in there. We can affect some improvement in this area going northbound on 208 by adding dedicated left turn lane from south of Northwest 4th Street all the way up to Johnson. And this would positively affect the people on Northwest 4th Street as there'll be an additional lane there, which people should be able to exit the community a little better. So it adds additional queuing from 4th all the way to Johnson. Johnson Street west of 208 is constrained. The street cannot be widened any further. There's no possibility of attaining additional right-of-way. It's built up to basically the roadway width. East of Johnson, the roadway is, right-of-way is wider, so we could possibly do some improvements there. 208 at Pines Boulevard, we should be able to add asphalt for additional, say, 3 lanes. We can have a dedicated southbound right turn lane, a through lane, and 2 dedicated left turn lanes. At 184th and Sheridan Street, we do have right-of-way, and we have some area close to the intersection where we can add an additional right turn lane heading northbound on 184th. We can also add additional queuing from Northwest 17th up to the entrance to the school on 184. We're also evaluating other improvements with Broward County Traffic Engineering. We're looking at both eastbound and westbound Sheridan. 196 Ave on Taft, this is we're looking west on Taft Street here, and this is the parking lot that's adjacent to our sports fields. We were examining the possibility of adding queuing in our parking lot to assist with the traffic at 196 and Taft at this school. And there's also a right-of-way where we can add turn lane extensions in various directions approaching 196 and Taft. This is farther south on 196 at the city soccer park. We're also examining the possibility of using the city parking lot for queuing for the student drop-off and pickup for the school, which is here on the corner of 196 and Pines. So that would require a very little infrastructure improvement. 196, we have lots of right-of-way there, so we can make it 4 lanes all the way from Pines Boulevard to Pembroke Road. So we can add an additional lane northbound and southbound. It's already 4 lanes from Southwest 3rd North. This intersection is going to be a challenging to engineer this. As you can see, old Southwest 196th Ave is here. The entrance to the school, the entrance to the park, and Northwest 3rd are all in this intersection. These are just some order of magnitude cost estimates, based on the amount of asphalt we're going to have to put down at different locations, assuming a certain number of feet of a turn lane. So we estimated Northwest 208 that from Johnson to Pines would be about $1.2 million, adding those 2 additional lanes. Northwest 184th at Sheridan, we estimated to be close to $1 million, but we haven't finished analyzing that intersection yet. So, that could go down or up. Northwest 196 at Taft, we estimate that could be, a little over $300,000 if we're adding additional queuing, if we're going to be using the parking lot adjacent to the sports fields. The price would go down for this. Using the parking at the soccer park on Southwest 196, it would be very little cost involved with that, unless we had to do some improvements out there on 196. And the big improvement, if we were adding 2 additional lanes on 196 from 3rd all the way down to Pembroke, that would be approximately $4.5 million. So if you add all these up, it's approximately $7 million, which is order of magnitude. It could go up almost double that or less. So it's in that general vicinity. Like I said, it's subject to the final engineering. We haven't let the engineering design for any of these yet. So, like I said, it's very preliminary. So, Mr. Dodge would like to discuss some of the potential funding sources.
Before we go to Mr. Dodge on that, can you go back one screen there? You took the 196 at the soccer park. You took the money off of that because we really would be very minimal cost to use that. Yes. Wouldn't that also be the same thing for 196 at Taft, if we were able to use that? While still $7 million is a lot of money and 330 is a small part of that, it's still 330 that comes off of there.
Yes, correct? That would be if we were just going to use the parking lot and not add any additional queuing, then that would be very minimal cost.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kennedy.
Before we go to Mr. Dodge, I want to make a comment.
I'm sorry?
Great. Before we go to Mr. Dodge, I want to make a comment. Great item, Commissioner. We've been getting beat up by the residents, me particularly on these neighborhood sites, that I'm responsible for all the traffic. I'm telling you I'm not. Under this COVID situation, parents don't want to bring their kids to a bus. They don't want to. They don't want to have a big carpool anymore like they used to have. They want to bring one child. When you do that, you back up. And where we don't have new development on Pines Middle and all, they're backed up during those periods. But what I wanted to tell you was at the MPO on Thursday, I brought up a situation. I said that we were contemplating trying to do road improvements because of this traffic, because all of this traffic was around. They're bringing back the LAP agreement, Mr. Kennedy, with the MPO, and they said if these satisfy the criteria for the MPO and the LAP agreement, we can go ahead and do it ourselves and get reimbursed from them. So what I would like you to do, Mr. Dodge, is see if this does in fact satisfy that, then we have a funding source. Mr. Dodge?
Okay.
Sure.
So, Mr. Dodge, would you, City Manager, would you please give us an explanation of the process for how we would move forward with these ideas to work with our communities, our schools, and the other agencies, and also please explain the funding portion of this initiative? And the mayor brought up a little bit of it, but you and I had conversation earlier today, and you might want to share some of that as well. So,
Yes.
thank you.
Whoever has control of the computer, could you please put the presentation back up? It's the last slide. Thank you. Carl, if you can continue. Carl and I had an opportunity to speak to staff at MPO today. We're also we'll be in conversations with the county regarding the surtax money. And what the mayor indicated is what was related to us by the MPO. And there's a process that we have to go through. Some of the items that were brought before you today have minimal cost, and some of those things we could probably implement relatively quickly. The goal is to try to take traffic off of Pines Boulevard. There's a lot of traffic on Pines as a result of the Somerset Academy South. There are other issues with the Franklin Charter School a little bit east, so we need to look at that too. They have a relatively good system, but it does take down one complete lane for traffic both east and west on Pines. 208th Avenue north of Pines is basically a parking lot in the morning, and it's very, very difficult for the communities that live both east and west of 208th to get out of their neighborhoods, as well as parents trying to make shortcuts through the community that also create some issue in neighboring roadways. So we're looking to address that, but what is being presented this evening by Commissioner Seipel is only the beginning of a larger problem. If you look at most of the schools in Pembroke Pines, we have the same issue, and as the mayor said, it's very unique this year. We have not had students in school for a year and a half, and now with the concern among parents for COVID, they are driving them. So even if we were to continue with shuttle buses and everything else, that won't work if the parents are not going to allow their children to ride those buses. We've even seen in our own charter schools and the buses that we run to bring our children to school, there are many parents very hesitant to allow their child to ride the bus, so they're on the roadway. But we need to look at transportation in total. It's not only the schools. We've talked about it over and over again about the congestion with roads. And we probably need mayor and commissioners to look at a master plan as to how we're going to fix this. We have comments as the community on Northwest 113th today. We're saying that you have speeding, people disregarding these neighborhood streets. We need to start looking at means of slowing traffic, either with speed humps, roundabouts, whatever it is, and come up with a master plan citywide. And the funding of this is going to have to be explored as well. One possibility is a geo issue. We did this many years ago very successfully, and at that time, we never had issues. We widened 184th to 4 lanes, 196th, 172nd. With people moving in here, we expanded those roadways, but with growth in the community and the demand for schools and the siting of those schools, it has created a problem. So we need to look at that also as an opportunity. The last information we had on the U.S. Government Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, we were looking at a potential of $20 million that the city could expend on infrastructure. That's above and beyond the Recovery Act dollars that we received. And with the proposals before Congress now that dollar might increase. We don't have the answer, but I think we need to start. The first area that we probably need to start at is in the west, because that's where we're getting the majority of the complaints from the community, and rightfully so, because I drive through there, and there's some roads I will avoid in the morning simply to get here. Hiatus Road coming south on Pembroke Lakes Elementary, you know, they block intersections. The parents are anxious to get their kids to school. So if the light's gonna turn red, they'll get in the middle of it. Then you have the school crossing guards stopping the traffic, and you can't make a right. And then it backs traffic up almost to Sheridan Street. So this is a multifaceted staging of planning that we need to get involved in. And what if this item passes this evening, we will be moving forward with the easy steps. We will be contacting the MPO on the processes, as well as talking with our representatives on the surtax dollars for our community, and come up with a master plan and meet with the community to decide if there are other issues. So that's where we are this evening. Commissioner Seipel has had these conversations with myself and Mr. Kennedy for a number of weeks now to try to find a resolution to this.
Thank you. Commissioner Seipel.
Yes, Mayor, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Dodge. Good information. I'm going to tell you, at first glance, I'm not going to be in favor of a GO bond, because I'm not going to ask people for more money for something that there's available funds that we will be able. You just mentioned some money from infrastructure. You also mentioned about a $20 million availability to us. I would say that's where we're going first, and not try to get money through a GO bond for our residents. So I wouldn't want to do that. But you also mentioned, and Mr. Kennedy mentioned in his presentation, that there is a process that has to happen for we have some of these issues that can be taken care of rather quickly and see some relief almost immediately from some of them. Some of them will take a little bit longer, but knowing that we are going to be committed, and I'm hoping that tonight the vote will be that we're committed to this. Going forward with this, Mr. Dodge, you will immediately start the necessary paperwork with MPO and the agencies, like we discussed earlier, to get us in the loop for that to start happening, for a reimbursement process for us, so that we don't miss out on any of those levels when they start doing. I think they said something level 5, and now they're looking at level 6, or whatever the numbers were on that, so that we don't lose any time on that, and that we have that agreement that we would be guaranteed, if we upfront the money, we get the monies back from them. So I would certainly push and request that you would move forward on that. And again, I just want to say, when my early statement said that this is an initial process. And I want to say that again, initial, because this is citywide. It is everywhere. They all have a little different look to them, but the problem is still the same: moving traffic, and not causing folks that aren't involved in the school traffic to be negatively impacted by that. So it is citywide, and they're each going to have their own answer to it, and we're going to look at that. So I'm committed to finding these solutions. There are issues citywide, so we must work together to find some relief. I am asking my colleagues for their support of this request and the request of so many of our residents. So that would be the motion for tonight, Mayor, would be to move forward with this. And before we go on with comments and an eventual vote on this, I did want to make sure that everybody knew that I have scheduled a town hall meeting for next Tuesday evening, September 21st at 7 p.m. in the River of Grass Theater out at the Academic Village. Notices will be sent to the HOAs for them to share with their residents for this meeting information, and it will also be placed on the city's social media, as well as hopefully some of the old-fashioned roadside signs that everybody out in those communities would know. And we're kind of, while anybody is welcome to come, we are sort of trying to look at that western area and start there with, with the issues. So.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Mayor, that's my presentation.
Thank you.
And
Good job. Good job. Good work.
My request, Mayor, is that I am asking my colleagues for their support of this request.
We got it.
And the request of so many of our residents.
Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, I've got Commissioner Schwartz. Would you like to speak?
Thank you. Commissioner Seipel, thank you. Mr. Kennedy, you said it was between 7 and 14 million? Is that what I heard you say?
No.
It could be, we need to do just, I need to have a traffic engineer do the final design, but.
Okay, so it's no less than 7, but it could be as much as 14. Is that, you said it'd be no less than 7, but it could be as much as 14?
Well, I can't say that it would be.
Could be higher.
That's kind of nailing us down at this point. These are preliminary plans.
Well,
we do not know what we're going to encumber or what it will encompass when we start looking at the soil conditions and what it's going to take.
Mr. Dodge, let me rephrase the question to you then, sir.
Okay.
It will probably be no less than 7 million.
For the projects we mentioned today, yes, probably.
Okay,
not.
all right, because I want to make sure that social media bill is actually factual. I know Commissioner Seipel does an excellent job putting out real information with real facts, and I'm happy to support her effort to give the western side of our city some traffic relief. I do see Somerset here, and I want to thank them. I think it was about 4 years ago, I attended a meeting, I don't know if it was the fall or the spring of 17, when we all got together and tried to figure out the loop, and you guys made some significant infrastructure changes. As a result of that, you became a better community partner, and I think the residents appreciated that. It's my understanding, and I asked the city manager to get as much information out of the school board as possible, but they weren't able to provide us. Thank you, Mr. Kennedy. They weren't able to provide us the data in time for tonight's meeting. But it's my sense that the charter school bus ridership in years past was around 40%. They're probably down a little bit, maybe in the low 30s or something like that, is because we're seeing it throughout like the country. So we're a sample size of what's actually happening in the world. School times, I know the West Broward wasn't, they changed their time when Somerset didn't. And that was like 4 years ago. So generally speaking, Mayor, I'm thankful that you're the chair of the MPO. I'm thankful for your leadership there. And I'm certain that when this administration gets tasked with a challenge, they deliver and over-deliver. I know City Manager Dodge is being humble and modest. He will get it done. I do see some citizen participation in this process. You can have the best plan in the world, but if no one wants to follow directions, it doesn't really work out too good, right? So when we built the Renaissance across the street, being the district commissioner, I mean, they converted a Kmart into a charter school. And I worked with them and rejected 3 plans before it became public because I knew that queuing was going to be an issue, and we had it all sorted out. They weren't happy because it cost them a lot more money than what they were planning on doing. But here we have the middle of the city at Pines and Palm, and we don't have anything close to what you're experiencing out west. Nothing even remotely close. And we are like, lots of cars driving around at Palm and Pines. So As far as the town hall, Commissioner Seipel, thank you again for stepping up to that. I think it is appropriate that it's, that it's intimate and the residents who are impacted. By all means, if you want to go and support, but please, understand that you might be taking a seat from somebody who's actually being directly impacted. I guess that's going to kind of wrap up my comments. I'm happy to support whatever efforts you're trying to get done, and I look forward to seeing happy faces.
Thank you, Commissioner Schwartz.
Thanks.
Commissioner Castillo, then we're going to move with the item.
Yeah, thank you very much. I welcome this. Long overdue. Parents are currently taking their kids in greater numbers to school, one per car. And there is no more traffic inefficient way to take kids to school, nor one right now that sort of meets the desire of those parents. And so, to some extent, this is about figuring out what parents will allow so that the traffic can improve, because some of this is behavioral. And it's very difficult to tell a parent your child will be safe, because those are guarantees that can't be offered. The thing is, they can't be offered in that car either. But to the extent that that is a safer environment, it's hard to convince people to do other things. Yet we must try, because if everybody is taking their kid to school, one kid per car, we will choke in traffic no matter how many millions of dollars we throw at this. It's just untenable, an untenable situation. In terms of busing, as we know, we have the 2-mile rule. And those that are being bused within the 2 miles, there has to be some alternative funding approach for how that busing gets paid for. A couple of years ago, I brought forward at the behest of parents a proposal that we study a way to either get more private school buses. In Miami, they used to call them the guaguitas, or that the city would figure out a way to put smaller buses for the group of students that live within the 2 miles, so that we could get them to school. You get 20 on a bus, or 16 on a bus. That's 16 less cars. That's a win. That's a big win. And we sort of passed up on that opportunity. There was an odd sort of email from the school board. I don't want to get into the finger pointing of it, but it was a missed opportunity, okay? I hope that the discussion turns back to that. And I hope that we can go to schools and they can help us to organize parents, because the routing is so important. So, for example, if you've got these mini school buses, they can't be located all over the city. They have to be sort of clustered together for this to work. So it takes some internal planning and some coordination together with the schools. And there's some of it that's going on now, but not enough. We're not busing enough of our young people to school. And that's something that we can absolutely do within the city. The police chief thought it was a good idea. City manager thought it was a good idea. The parents thought it was a good idea. It's time to bring the idea back. Let's see if we can't use that and get fewer cars on the road. In terms of, there's an issue right now because of traffic and because of safety. But there has to be, at certain locations, there need to be the opportunity to drop the kids off. I used to take my children to Pines West, and I know that it was a problem, but they were safe enough to walk some of that distance. If there's a turnoff, you can drop the kids, and if it's properly supervised, they can walk part of the way to school. You can do your U-turn, get out of the line. If it can be organized in a safe and appropriate way, that's potentially a way of something to look at. We have an incredible amount of delay in our road projects. The horizon for movement of cars east and west and north and south improves with Pembroke Road going out to US 27. We know that. And particularly if we can connect 208 to that Pembroke Road.
The mayor just announced that LAP agreements are back. Okay, LAP agreements, in my understanding, are between cities or counties and the state. However, if there is an agreement where we can accelerate the project and we can get paid for the project and get it done faster, Pembroke Road would be my number one suggestion. Let's get 2 lanes going on Pembroke Road at long last and give people some traffic relief. Miramar is the only city in Broward that has to go north in order to go south on US 27 because they have no terminal ending at US 27. So they have to come into our city in order to go south. They have to go, and many of them, because they've chosen not to have charter schools, drop their kids off at our schools. So a lot of this is just organizing the movement, and I love the idea of a master plan, long overdue. Non-school traffic. As I said, a lot of this is about organizing behavior. A lot of people can avoid using the roads during these hours. Some folks can go to work a little earlier. Some can go to work a little later. Some can't. Some have to go at that moment. If you can't avoid it, then go. If you can avoid it, you should. If you can avoid being on those roads around between 2 and 3, and you can get your shopping done earlier, your appointments done earlier rather than later, on more days than not, you're helping the situation. You're helping the city to become a more traffic efficient city. So some of this is getting the word out. And one of the reasons why the traffic does improve after the first week of school is because the word gets out on its own. People see it experientially. So they say, oh, I'm not going to go out right now because I know there's traffic. I'll wait 15 minutes. I'll wait a half an hour. And then they go and they have a more pleasant experience in their car. And then you have the issue of traffic engineering. Now, this is a little bit off Commissioner Seipel's item, which I welcome. But we have had this issue with Broward County traffic engineering. In terms of the signalization of the lights, my understanding is that the fiber optic cable is already installed from Dykes all the way out east. Well, I keep hearing that the signalization has never been worse than it is right now, and the cable's in the ground. We were promised that if we taxed ourselves and we voted for it, that the signalization would improve. We sent a resolution to Broward County Traffic Engineering, asking them to mark our roads. The city engineer and the city manager are meeting about what to do about their response. It wasn't a good response.
All right, let's get back to Commissioner Seipel's item.
So all of these things have a place in your master plan. This is why I'm bringing it up, Mayor. All of these things have a place in your master plan. It's these improvements that have been suggested, which make perfect sense. It's putting more kids on buses and using the schools to help us figure out, together with willing parents, how to make that work. It's getting more kids on buses. It's getting more of these road projects done faster. It's looking at potential drop-offs. It's looking at the non-school traffic and how it manages itself. All of these things have a place in this master plan. So I welcome the idea. I'm looking forward to what staff brings back. This is very, very positive. I'm glad to see us solving problems instead of making excuses. It's a great move in the right direction, and I'm looking forward to it. But people out west are sick and tired of it, and that's why they don't want any more growth. They don't want any more growth because we're not delivering to them what they're asking for, which is enough with the traffic.
All right, thank you. Let me just say that, just to remind everybody, there's 100 buses short starting the school year. 100 buses short. 105 drivers short. There's no buses to put them on.
Gotta pay them more.
So you can't solve that problem overnight. They're trying. And the Pembroke Road site is in the planning. While it takes some time, that's what it does. It's in the planning. It's not dead. It's in the planning. We're going to make this happen. I guarantee to you we'll make this happen. All right. And no further, City Clerk, call the roll, please.
Mayor,
Yes.
I think we have a few folks from the public that would like to speak.
All right, go ahead, Commissioner Seipel.
Those that want to speak?
Anybody want to speak? Oh, I didn't recognize you with the mask. We put a speed hump on your road when you asked me.
Sorry?
We put a speed hump on your road when you were asked, you remember?
Yes.
4th Street, 4th Street, when they were cutting across?
Well, let me tell you, it's no better. It hasn't been better.
It was.
And I appreciate everything that Commissioner Schwartz said, but our problem out west is we have 2 high schools within 100 yards of each other.
Yep.
Over 7,000 kids. So it is a unique situation out there. The problem is that the parents are totally disrespectful. They park their cars all over our swales.
Yeah.
They park their cars in our driveways. They block the roadways. It's just horrendous out there. And honestly, in the short term, I don't know what can be done. I mean, what can be done to help us out there? Our swales are torn up. Our streets are blocked. I cannot get out of that photo that you showed of 196th Avenue. That's the front of my house from 7:15 in the morning until 8 o'clock. So again, I'm here to request that Northwest 4th Street be closed at the end of Pasadena Estates. 17 developments out there, only 2 have 2 ways in and out. The rest of them have 1 way in and 1 way out. And that's all I'm requesting, is that we get our street closed at the end of Pasadena Estates. We have 1 way in and 1 way out like the rest of the neighborhoods. And then that way, at least the 25 of us on Northwest 4th Street will be a little bit happier. As far as the dimensions and the point, they'll go out to 208. It'll actually be better for them because their development entrances will not be blocked, because nobody will be coming down Northwest 4th Street.
Lisa, we need your name and address for the record. It's my fault.
I'm sorry, Lisa Zubby. I'm in Pasadena Estates at 20360 Northwest 4th Street. And just for the record, I've lived in Pembroke Pines since 1974.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm a long hauler here. And the other thing is, Pasadena Estates, along with the rest of Chapel Trail, we've been out there for 32 years. Our streets have never been resurfaced. The potholes in Pasadena Estates, the potholes in Chapel Trail as a whole are ridiculous. I know Bill's here from the preserves. In front of the preserves, they're humongous. I mean, they're almost to the point of sinkholes. And yes, they come out and fill them in every so many months and all. But those streets have never been resurfaced. I know that Silver Lakes has been resurfaced twice. I know that Alhambra's been resurfaced twice. Can we have our streets resurfaced?
Alhambra's private.
All of it?
All of it.
Oh, okay.
So
I
you
take
have
that back.
to do it.
Silver Lakes, their main roads have been resurfaced twice.
We have a 20-year plan to resurface all
So
of
we're 32 years. What happened?
I don't know.
We got lost in the shuffle.
I don't know, but we'll find out.
Okay, and I
I have
appreciate
a question.
Commissioner Seipel
Right.
for coming out and fighting for the community that most of us aren't even in your voting district, but you're out there fighting for us, and I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, let's get on with the item.
Yeah, Mayor, if I may.
Yes, sir. Come on up.
Mayor, can I ask?
Hold on one second.
City manager about the.
Hold on one second. Come on up, sir.
Wasn't sure.
Yeah, sorry.
Wasn't sure who you were saying.
Name
Hold
and
on.
address, please.
Bill Kirschberg in Pembroke Pines.
Bill, you got 3
281.
minutes. I should have told her that.
Now I get a limit.
Go ahead. You're all right.
Thank you, Commissioner Seipel, for bringing this up and trying to expedite it. Commissioner Schwartz, it's probably worse than you believe. I do have updated numbers.
It's horrible. No, I don't want to downplay
No.
it. Listen, I don't want you to walk out
All right,
thinking.
all right.
Mayor, if I
It
may.
is 30%
Yeah.
bus ridership
Yeah.
for Somerset as of this afternoon, the information I got today.
Yeah.
But November 29th, 2017, 4 of you
Yeah.
folks were here.
Mm-hmm.
You all voted to an agreement with Somerset, and here we are nearly 4 years later, and we have the same mess. Very little, if anything, has changed. The traffic is still there. I live in a neighborhood, a community that's next to Johnson Street. People cut through with complete disrespect, zip around to go from 201 to 203rd and try and get ahead of the other traffic. They have no reason to be in my neighborhood, but they come.
You got to speak into the mic.
I'm letting them know too.
No, but you have to speak into the mic. They can hear you.
Yes, but they need to not come into my neighborhood because there's no reason for them to go other than to try and cut through. And, you know, if you look at this agreement from, there are things on there that I would question if in fact they are being held. You know, clearly the 30% is an issue right now, and I like the bus idea, but it's not going to work right away. There's other things on here that I suspect they may not have completely done. One of them was shall develop a double left turn lane at 208th Avenue and Johnson Street. That doesn't exist. So a lot of that stuff has not been done. It's been 4 years. The other thing is that intersection of 208th and Johnson, unless you require that be the only way into that school, the traffic flow through that intersection is a challenge. So you're going to get people backed up on Johnson, you're getting back on 208. Even if you add the volume on 208, you really need to make it a point of not coming in on Johnson from the east, from 196. But we got to get Pembroke Road done.
Yep. All right, Pembroke Road's in the planning. You got it for me.
And
All right,
Johnson
Vice
Street-
Mayor,
I haven't.
you didn't say, real quick, because we haven't gotten our agenda yet.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Vice Mayor.
I'll let you finish with the public first, if there's still more.
All right.
Johnson Street, I think was part of that dollar surtax.
Okay.
Paving Johnson Street.
All right. Sir, name and address, please.
Good evening.
Then Commissioner Schwartz.
Steve Christus, 20441 Northwest 4th Street. I am the westernmost
Thank you.
house in Pasadena 1 on Lisa Sumby Street. Everything Lisa said is absolutely correct. But I want to go back about 15 years ago when I gave you, Mayor, a letter asking to close that road down with a petition. About 80% of the neighborhood wanted that road closed down 15 years ago, and nothing has been done. So please reconsider that immediately. The traffic, my wife, every morning blows the horn to get out of the neighborhood, to get out of our driveway. And finally, please, let's get Pembroke Road put out to US 27.
We're trying.
Thank you.
Mr. Dodge, you heard that?
Yes, Mayor, I did.
Okay. Who's next? Whoever wants to speak, come on down, please.
Hi, I'm Adam Perez. I live at 20511 Northwest 7th Street. It's in Chapel Point and Chapel Trail. Same issue with Northwest 4th Street. Thank you so much for putting this on the agenda. Someone is going to get hurt. We have children who live at Chapel Point. We have children who live at Dimensions, and the parents don't let us out of our neighborhoods. We have about 4 or 5 buses that get stuck every single day. Those buses are struggling to get the children on because there's so many cars. You have to close Northwest 4th Street. It is not an option. A child is going to get hit by a car. It is not safe. You guys have to do something. I appreciate the construction. I do supply chain for a living. This is going to take a really long time. Before someone gets hurt, you have to find queue on Rose Price Park. Why can't you do that? And if you get this approved, I don't want to spend $7 million minimum, by the way. I don't want to spend that. I would rather have no more townhouses, no more schools. But if we're not going to do that, we have to at least do something. Maybe, whatever, the grass is going to get ruined. Let them park there. If they're at least parking on the grass, they're not hitting children. We have to do something. And then if you're going to pave over it eventually, then who cares? But this is not sustainable. We have to do something immediately, please. And
thank you. Next speaker. Good evening.
Good evening. How are you?
Good.
My name is Cecilia Sanders, and I live in Chapel Trail. Well, I guess I'm not gonna get this off. Right here, and just got stuck there. Okay, so the reason why I'm here tonight, and I'm so grateful that you put this in the agenda. So thank you. I have 2 children in Franklin Academy. I have a kindergarten as well as a 3rd grader. The first couple of weeks, and I live in Chapel Trail, so I literally live across the street from Franklin Academy. The first couple of weeks, it took me over an hour to drop off my kids, and now this is in the morning. So in the afternoon, what I'm doing, which is so sad, I am not picking them up when they get out of school because it takes me an hour and a half minimum to pick them up. So what I have to do is I have to pay for aftercare, which is costing me $400 a month because I work for a living, so I don't have a way between like 2 and 3:30 to stand just to pick up my kids. So now I have to pay for aftercare so I can pick them up after 4:30. That's one thing. The other thing is that although I appreciate the whole buses situation, I'm one of your real citizens here. I moved here 4 years ago to bring my kids to the Montessori school. Well, at that time, my kids were very little. So the chances of you putting a kid that is 2 and 4 years old in the bus, that's not an option. The Montessori school is right there too. It's part of this whole mess.
You can't put the little ones.
So, and my kids are still little, so for me to think of putting my 5-year-old on a bus now, it's just not gonna happen. Nor do I qualify for a bus either, because I live across the street from the school. So for me to in the morning spend 40 minutes just to go across the street to drop my kids, it's just no good for my job and for my quality of life. And for me to be spending $400 on aftercare just because I don't have the time for an hour and a half just to sit there, that's unacceptable either. I came here 4 years ago and I bought a house for almost $500,000 without a pool. Why did I do that? Because of the schools. That's the reason why I did it. But it's not working out, so we need your help. And lastly, I want to say, every morning, I'm so fearful when I go and drop off my kids because Pines Boulevard traffic, they fly, and we're basically there. It is dangerous. Someone is going to get hurt. One of these days, someone is going to hit us. And so please help us. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker. Mr. Dodge, you listening?
Yes, Mayor.
Okay.
Good evening. It's me
Good evening.
again. I am Christina Sutter. I'm at 20380 Northwest 4th Street. I am also from 4th Street. I am also Lisa's neighbor. And some of you may remember me because we've had this conversation 2 other times, the only 2 other times that I've been here, to have this exact same conversation. And nothing has changed. In fact, it's gotten worse. And so I'm also a mother of one of the children that goes to West Broward. I have another one at the middle school at Silver Trail. I put my kids on buses. As soon as they're old enough, I put my kids on buses. They moved the bus stop to allow Somerset's traffic. So my kid, who lives on that street, has to be moved out to accommodate all the others coming from somewhere else. I pay taxes to live on that street. But my kid gets moved. There are businesses and there are neighbors that we cannot afford because they are so arduous to maintain, they are so arduous to work with, and they end up being more trouble than they're worth, is the nicest word I can use. Okay? So, Mr. Montero, this is nothing personal, but the growth of that school and the way we have given them more and more and more and gotten nothing in the form of cooperation in return, I have to disagree with you, Mr. Schwartz. Our board unanimously agreed 4 years ago that they could have all the lights and all the equipment back there. The West Broward was not allowed to have lights, but this school was allowed, so that they would cooperate with us. Well, this year they have less buses. Okay, I heard that about people are not putting their kids on buses and that there are 100 less bus drivers. I don't know one person who isn't trying to put their kids on the bus. I live there. I speak to other parents.
Yeah.
So, but there are parents whose children go to Somerset saying that they're no longer being offered bus service because they've now reduced the radius of their busing. So, gosh, we gave and gave. I don't see what we got from a good neighbor in return.
Okay. We got your message.
Thank you.
Loud and clear. Next. Thank you. Next. All right, let me take the vice mayor first, and then Commissioner Schwartz, you're going to quickly clear up because we haven't even gotten to our agenda yet. Yep. And it's an important item. Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Commissioner Seifel, for bringing this forward, and thank you for all of you taking the time out of this evening to share with us what your concerns are. Very, very real issues to you all, and Sounds like, as I'm hearing, listening to a lot of stuff here, I'm hearing that one of the things that we really probably need to be paying attention to, first and foremost, probably is, you know, in addition to trying to find a solution for traffic mobility, is to take a look at these agreements that we have, because it sounds like, you know, there's, you know, all these physical modifications that were supposed to be made that weren't made. There were these mobility plans that don't seem to have materialized. And another question that I would also ask is, what about enrollment caps? I mean, there are enrollment caps. Is anybody checking to see that the number of students are really below the number of people that students are supposed to be there? I don't know who checks that, but we should be looking at that as well. So I say that, and I also want to make one thing interestingly enough, as I'm listening, the one thing I don't hear in any of this is police enforcement, and I don't know what's happening there. I know that you have SROs at these locations, but they're kind of stuck maybe to handle traffic right at the entrance of the facility, but where is the traffic enforcement? And I asked the city manager through the mayor if we could have a little understanding about what's happening, because I hear immediate action, immediate something, immediate relief. What better way of at least being able to put some enforcement in the area to help people know, hey, you ain't supposed to be blocking the intersection. Hey, you're supposed to be over here, not over there. Hey, why are you coming through some of these neighborhoods when you're not supposed to be in these neighborhoods in the first place? There ain't no school here for you. So is there any information on that as well?
Mr. Manager?
The police department has been involved in enforcement at many of the schools throughout the city. The issue is the number of personnel you would need to do this on a daily basis. But we will certainly revisit this and see what can be done. In particular, I'm hearing most of this is relative to 208th Avenue, which is probably the worst area we have, and that's why most of the improvements to try to improve the traffic flow and get people off of cutting through the neighborhood streets is to do that. I think we need to explore maybe even some temporary measures, because the city attorney can address the closure of streets, and there is a process for that. But maybe there's a middle of the road ground, no pun intended, to temporarily close something during school hours to see if that could legally be done. And it might be something very, very simple to do that, and we'll explore that as an option as well.
Mayor, may I make a comment to
First, let me have
Vice Mayor Good?
Commissioner Schwartz.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. The manager just channeled what I was going to say. Fourth needs to be closed now, and we'll deal with the legal consequences behind it. You know, if someone wants to sue us for closing the street,
please don't say that publicly.
Commissioner,
I know you don't mean it, but please don't say it publicly. This is a commission that goes by the rules.
Yeah, I know. We go
Don't say it then.
We go by the
With all due
rules.
respect.
So, you know, between the hump on 113th being done in 2 weeks, 4th needs to be closed as well. My question is, what happened 4 years ago? 4 years ago, there was a commitment made up here. Now, I remember you as well, and I also remember that once we set something in motion, it's expected that it's followed through on, and when commitments are made, that they're followed through on. And so, as the elected body, we get to hold the administration accountable, and the citizens get to hold us accountable, and it usually works out pretty good. But if there is city attorney, and I grew up in the same city, and there was signage that says that you cannot access a certain road during a certain time, during a certain day of the week. So if it can happen in the city of Philadelphia, certainly it can happen in the city of Pembroke Pines. There's no reason for it. If nothing else, we should have a conversation with our friends at the school board to provide additional resources to help with that situation. Our friends at Somerset, I mentioned Renaissance. I hit them with 2 SROs for a K through 8. 2 SROs at the corner here at Pines and Palm, not 1. Because I knew that we were going to have just what the Vice Mayor says. You have one at the entrance and the other one trying to handle the stuff at the other end of the line. These folks on 4th need relief tonight. Tonight. So, folks, we have some folks here from Somerset, and by all means, do your distance outside, but they are problem solvers. Now, if there's a commitment as far as lane widening and the stuff in the agreement, that's down the line. But certainly we can figure out the queuing situation. As far as buses go, my wife had to drive my children to the bus stop because it was so far at 6 o'clock, dark 30. It's ridiculous the way that they will just queue, bus stops, and you're absolutely right. It's frustrating, and I say this with the greatest amount of respect to our community partners. Okay, but 1/3 of the Pines charter school system, 1/3 are not residents. 1/3 of the charter schools in the Pembroke Pines charter are not residents. It might even be a little bit lower. I may be fibbing a little bit. It might be closer to 25% now. Okay? But I do know many of my friends who live in Hollandale and West Hollywood and Miramar go to Franklin and Somerset. They do. Okay? And there's only one way they can go, and that's by car because no bus is going to pick them up. They're too far away. Okay. And if you're too close, they're not going to pick you up.
All right,
so,
we got it.
With that, thank you, Commissioner Seipel, and I look forward to
Commissioner Seipel, wrap us up, please.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to respond to a statement that Vice Mayor said about the population size and agreements. And part of my presentation was, while we could not prohibit schools from being built, we were able to request certain limits, such as school population size and agreements for busing students. Staff has been reviewing those agreements to ensure that we are in compliance. So that will come back as part of our reports on the question you were asking for. And Mayor, part of my, at the very end of my, what I wanted to say tonight was to ask if, in fact, we could look at specifically 4th Street, exactly what City Manager alluded to earlier, was that have it not be a full-blown block the total road off, but to at least try for a while to have time frames when that road is blocked so that it is no school traffic going through there.
I think the manager got the message.
Well, I'm asking, I want that to be part of my motion then that I'm making,
Manager?
that in fact we include that in
Let's
the motion.
Let's ask.
Well, Mayor, I suggested it as an option, but once again, the city attorney will have to weigh in on that process.
All right.
If we can.
So Mayor, what I would like to add then is that if in fact city attorney gives us the go forward to do that, I would like for us to look at 4th Street and be able to limit the hours when cars can utilize that road during our school traffic hours.
All right.
Okay,
Sounds
so we
good to me.
have a
That's in the
second for that.
discussion. All right, City Clerk, it's all on record. Call the roll, please.
All right, Mayor, we're calling the roll on my item
That's right.
with the additional language to it.
It's on the record, yes.
Okay, I just want to clarify.
I'm running it. You got it.
You got it.
Go ahead, City Clerk.
Commissioner Seipel?
Yes.
Commissioner Schwartz?
Yes.
Commissioner Castillo?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Good?
Yes.
Mayor Ordus?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, everyone, thank you so much for your comments. Appreciate y'all. All right, let's go on to announcement of items to be pulled from the agenda, City Clerk. How about
items,
items
Mayor.
at the request of the public?
No items at the request of the public.
Announcement of board and committee appointments.
There will be an item on the regular agenda for commission appointments.
All right, so we've got the consent agenda, item 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. What is your pleasure?
12, please.
1.
Cycle 12. What other did I hear?
1.
1 for, who is that?
Schwartz.
I can't hear you, buddy.
I'm sorry, 1 for Schwartz.
Okay, anybody else?
Mayor, did you get my 12?
I got it.
Okay.
All right, so other than 1 and 12, I have a motion to approve the consent.
Motion.
Motion by Commissioner Seipel. Is there a second? Second. Second by Commissioner Castillo. Discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes do have it. Commissioner Schwartz on item 1.
Thank you, Mayor.
Go ahead.
I have to read it, sir. Give me a second. Motion to award IFB PSP, PSPW 21-01 city-wide pressure washing services to the most responsible bidder, Power Washing and More LLC, DBA, Green Earth Power Washing, initial annual amount not to exceed $329,000, subject to annual CPI increases.
Second. All right, is there a second by Commissioner Castillo? Go ahead, Commissioner Schwartz.
Thank you. I do have some questions for our procurement manager.
All right, manager? Oh, Mr. Gomes?
It's on.
Good evening. Good evening, everyone. Mark Gomes, Procurement Director.
Good evening, sir. How are you? We spoke last week regarding this item, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So that my colleagues have all the same information. This is an IFB, which is price only, so there's no evaluation committee. Is that correct?
It is mainly based on price. It's, you have to determine who's the most responsible. That considers experience and whatnot, but there is no evaluation committee. That is correct.
Okay. Mr. Gomes, do you have any subjectivity when it comes to most responsible bidder, the language itself?
So no, generally, we determine, we look at experience and things like that to determine, if they qualify for having the right experience and things like that. But it's generally based on price.
Okay, so what would most responsive include?
So, if someone's most responsive is submitting all their documents that's necessary that we required in the bid package and things like that.
So if someone was not responsive, that would require, let's say, staff following up to ask additional questions that may not have been included in the original bid?
In certain situations, yes.
And some of the situations lend itself towards a bid protest, am I correct?
I'd have to look at the specific question.
Well, specifically on this, the vendor that was selected, additional follow-up questions were necessary by staff to figure out what their actual intent was. Is that correct?
Could you be more specific on the?
Sure. Staff reached out to the number one firm to ask a series of questions with respect to whether they pressure clean millions of miles of things or millions of square inches or square feet of things. You had to clarify. Is that correct?
Yes, a vendor submitted a protest stating that the vendor,
Specifically, my question isn't about the bid protest, but staff had to reach out to the number one selected firm to figure out whether they meant millions of miles that they pressure cleaned or millions of square feet that they pressure cleaned. Is that correct?
Correct.
That's what I read. That's in this backup.
Correct.
That staff did. Did you reach out to any other vendors, the other, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 vendors to ask if there was any clarification.
No, the only reason we reached out to them to clarify that is because of a statement in a bid protest.
So it was a bid protest that triggered the most responsive inquiry.
To clarify that question, there was a question about, there's a statement that stated certain millions of miles were pressure cleaned, and a bid protest stated that they didn't believe that information to be accurate. So we reached out to the vendor to get clarification on that statement.
Okay, so Mr. Gomes, who were the people who evaluated who was the most responsive? Was it yourself or somebody else?
It was staff.
Okay, do you know who the staff members were?
Specifically, no.
Number of staff members, more than one?
Yes.
Okay, so if there was more than one, did the more than one review all the applications, or did they just kind of divvy up each application and each vendor and just kind of process it? Like, did some get 4 and some got 6 and some got 2 and some got 1, or did the staff go through each individual package?
So generally speaking, we have staff that evaluates and puts together what's in the backup as a bid tab. Different members of the staff, depending on priorities and things like that, will work on it together or singularly, depending on the project, to determine, gathering that information and clarifying things like that.
So it's possible that because staff wasn't all on the same page and not looking all at the same thing, that they can come up with 2 different conclusions whether or not a vendor was most responsive?
Not generally. Most of it is making sure that the vendors submit most of the information that's required, and then we start with going from, like I mentioned, ISPs are mainly based on price. So we start with going through the lowest vendor to determine if they're qualified or not. If not, then we'd have to move on to the next vendor, and so on and so on.
Okay, I'm going to move on to another thing that we had spoken about, and that's the local vendor preference. That this commission worked extremely hard to make sure that we do business with those who are here in Pembroke Pines and not out of town. The reason why we have that is so that we can support our local business community, so that we can ensure that if tax dollars are going to a vendor, we know that we're getting a good chunk of it back because they already live here, so they're already paying taxes. So we're actually, there's an added net benefit. Would you agree?
I guess it would depend on the situation. For instance, in this situation, the vendor, the second lowest vendor, he stated he's a local Pembroke Pines vendor. He uses his home address to qualify for that.
Mm-hmm.
So with that being said, his taxes to the city is about $2,500, while the savings with going with the lowest price vendor is about $25,000. So there's a difference between the benefits.
I'm sorry. I have to do the math in my head.
Sure.
Say that one more time.
So the difference in price from the lowest price vendor and the second lowest price vendor is around $24,000, $25,000, somewhere around there. And the taxes that the person pays as the second lowest vendor is about $2,500 or $2,200.
Do you deduct the bid protest? The $5,000. I mean, do you deduct that off this net? Is that how you justified? And I'm not taking a shot at you, Mr. Gomes, but you're qualifying that somebody paid $2,500. How did you come to that conclusion? What research did you or your staff come up with to say that that's the value that a vendor gave back to the city?
I looked at the trim notice from the Broward County property appraisers.
Is that normal course of business?
No, it's not. Earlier, as you know, you asked some questions about local vendor preference and what's the benefit to the city? Does the tax benefit for a vendor, what they pay to the city, how do you quantify that? So we started researching to determine, well, when a business is located in the city, what is that tax benefit? So to determine that,
Commissioner Schwartz,
that's the process we went
through.
Mayor, I'm getting to the point.
Okay, good.
I'm getting to the point. Now I'm actually kind of fixated a little bit on this $2,500. did you calculate fuel tax? How many gas stations or how much dollars are being spent at Publix?
No.
Of course not. Mr. Dodge, this is the second time we went out to bid on this item. The first time there was a glaring concern about how things were being tabulated. City attorney directed that all bids be thrown out and we go back out on the street. There was no bid protest the first time. There was an attempt for a bid protest, but the clock ran out. Now we have a vendor that we've never worked with before. According to what's in the backup, we have a new business, a new franchise owner under a corporate flag, but we don't know what we're getting. The vice mayor at the last meeting had talked about performance and getting lowballed and then come back and ask for a higher price. So when I look at this backup, because it was based on price, I see a range of $329,000 to $1.5 million. That's a wide margin. Now, if we take out the millions, now we're down to $800,000. Well, that's still two times what the top two would be. I've spoken with the city attorney, and I don't recall ever doing this in the 9 years I've sat here. But that's I'm considering making a motion to reject staff's recommendation and go with the second vendor. I've never done that, but just something just isn't. I mean, we have staff looking up tax roll. I mean, that's not a part of the bid package.
Mr. Mayor, may I
Mr. Dodge,
interject,
I was
please?
just going to ask, are we on
Well,
record?
I'd just like
Go
to
ahead.
address that. The only
Sure.
reason staff looked that up is because a question that was posed to them, so they were trying to educate themselves based on a fact that a statement was made that the vendor was contributing a lot more than the other one because they live here, even though their business is registered from their home, but their corporate offices are in a different city. So they were just trying to find answers that were asked. That's it. They didn't move forward to try to disqualify somebody or find out information. It was because of a statement that was made to them. In all fairness, that's what was done. You have, as a commissioner, if you do not agree with the recommendation of staff, you all can vote to do whatever it is you want as long as the city attorney blesses it.
Okay,
So
Mr. Schwartz?
to the city attorney, what options does this commission have?
City Attorney?
Well, if I may respond to Mr. Mayor, to the commissioner.
Sure.
You have before you a recommendation of staff based upon the recommendation to assign this IFB to the proposed bidder or the proposer. That's certainly one option you have. You can certainly, within the prerogative of the commission, if you choose to, you could reject all the proposals for any or no reason based upon the fact that you reserve the right to do so in the bid package, which I'm sure Mr. Gomes would confirm. And if you would so choose to reject all bids and go back to the street yet again and retool or revise or redesign the IFB package in some fashion, that's also an option. If there's some mid-ground with regard to rejecting the proposal as it is, I don't have a crystal ball, nor do I have a magic wand, so I can't know what for example, the proposer that is in the selection phase right now before the commission would do in the context of overstepping them and going to a second bidder. That certainly is an operational fact that you could do. Legally, whether it would open up a door for some challenge, I can't know the answer, but certainly I can sue you for divorce when not even married in Florida. As you know, you can file anything you want in Florida to challenge anything for the most part.
Commissioner Schwartz?
All right, so, City Attorney, I appreciate,
It was not said tongue-in-cheek, by the way, just as the system works.
I mean, listen, you know, it's, like I said, I haven't ever suggested this in the 9 years I've sat here. I just don't, something just doesn't feel right. And, when something doesn't feel right, I think the best thing to do, and certainly I can tell you this, there hasn't been any pressure cleaning in this city since February. That's when the contract ended, Mr. Dodge, if I may.
Hold
Mr.
on,
Dodge.
I want to clarify.
Hold on. Go ahead.
Mr. Dodge, is that true?
I'll defer to staff, but I do believe there has been some pressure
I thought I
cleaning.
saw him washing.
Not the typical program we have. I don't know if Public Works staff is here that can address it or not.
The contract for pressure cleaning ended in February. When the bid came out and it was rejected by staff, it was rejected by the city administration in March. They had already gone past the length of the contract, and then city staff ended the contractual relationship with the incumbent, putting us in this position tonight. That's where we're at.
Okay. No, we stopped it because commission said that they were not going to renew it and to go back out for bid.
Right.
However, there were other minor projects that have already been contracted for, I believe, in other departments that you did some pressure cleaning.
Mr. Buckland, do you have anything to add?
Just to answer the question, yes, there has been some pressure cleaning that has happened. Stephen Buckland, Public Services. There has been some pressure cleaning services that have been performed in the city on a job-by-job basis. But as far as the major component of the major purpose of this contract for the citywide street pressure cleaning services, none of that has happened.
Okay, so if I may, through the city manager to Mr. Buckland. Mr. Buckland, did you stop pressure cleaning services from any of the vendors that are in this proposal? Is there a stop work order for any of these vendors anytime this year?
There was a stop work order for to King of Pressure when they were continuing to pressure wash the streets and sidewalks after their contract had expired, and we had already once told them that after that point they could not perform that work any longer under the contract.
Okay, they haven't been paid this year, is that correct?
Yes, they have.
Okay, they were paid through February?
They've been paid for everything that they were contracted to do.
All right, Commissioner, what do you want to do?
Yes, Mayor, I don't want to dance tonight.
Okay.
I'm sorry?
I don't want to dance tonight. I want to have a straight answer. The pressure cleaning that was being performed by the incumbent, was that a new invoice, or was that work that was being finished up before they were asked to stop working, Mr. Buckland?
Mr. Buckland?
Can you repeat the question?
Sure.
Clarify that, please.
They were on a job that was already invoiced, or they were generating new invoices when they asked to be stopped?
They were on a job that they had not fully invoiced for. Their contract expired. We told them to discontinue work. They continued to work. I was driving out to check some other jobs. I seen them continuing to work. I stopped them because I did not want them to do work that they could not be paid for.
All right, Commissioner, wrap it up, please.
So when the initial bid came out in March and the city rejected those bids, did it have anything to do with a tally sheet that wasn't part of the original bid package?
The tally sheet that wasn't part of the original bid package?
Mm-hmm.
Please clarify your question.
Clarify, he's not getting your question.
No, he understands the question.
He's not, obviously looking at you.
I wouldn't ask you if I didn't understand, sir.
Okay. Why were all bids rejected back in March? You made that recommendation?
I couldn't hear you because you had the cup in front of the microphone.
Who made the recommendation to reject the bids back in March?
It wasn't myself. I do not know who made that recommendation.
Okay. City Attorney, my motion is going to be to reject all bids and go back out.
Is that a substitute motion?
If, what I'm considering.
We have hold on.
Yes, sir. It's not a substitute.
Hold on. Hold on.
Go ahead.
We have a motion on the floor.
Yes, sir.
You want to make a substitute motion, you can do that.
I mean,
Otherwise, the motion on the floor.
I understand where you're coming.
Oh, good.
I'd like to hear from my colleagues before I consider another motion.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Commissioner Seipel.
thank you. I'm really uncomfortable with this only because it seems like everybody that's talking about it is a little bit uncomfortable, and I don't want anybody to be in that kind of a position where we don't know. So I would like to make a motion that we would defer this to the next meeting and we would get some of these answers with Mr. Gomez being, some of the timelines, some of the issues that Mr. Buckland brought up, so that we actually have answers to the questions that my colleague has asked tonight, because they seem to be serious questions, but I'm hoping that there are serious answers to them. So I would like to make a motion that we defer to the next meeting with the understanding that questions that were asked, and maybe if my colleague has other questions, that he would email to city manager, however, and get those answers so that we would have all of that information for our next meeting.
There's a motion to defer for a time certain.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, Mr. Mayor.
City Attorney?
Yeah, the motion then is to table to a time certain with specific direction to administration to report back.
It's not table, we're going to defer it.
But to a time certain, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
I'd like to second that, but I have a question, Mayor, if I could.
All right, there's a second by Commissioner Castillo. Quick question, Commissioner.
So, yeah, it is a
On
quick.
deferral.
Yes, on the deferral. Between now and the next time that we see this, because pressure cleaning isn't just about making it look nice, it's about taking the soot off the sidewalk and the roads where people fall and then they sue us. So it's a very serious matter. I would like a full memoranda on this matter. Certain suggestions of a certain nature have been raised, and I would like to have this fully on record in terms of what we're talking about, because I did not follow.
Okay, you're on a motion to defer.
All of the questioning. I just didn't follow it. So if we could come back with a memo in advance of the item.
Are you speaking in favor of a commission to defer? Okay.
I'm asking for that as part of the motion to defer.
Vice Mayor, you want to say on the commission, on the item to defer?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you. I be honest with you, I don't know that I'm in favor of deferring the item if there's a way to work this around this. Enough information was brought up. Yes, Commissioner Seipel seems, there's, concerns and things. So, but I'm wondering if this the bid couldn't be split between the two lowest bids, as opposed to just, going and deferring this any further, because Commissioner Castillo brings up a point about, potential other issues.
Point of order, Mayor. Point of order, Commissioner Castillo.
Excuse me, Vice Mayor, I'm sorry, but I don't believe that the item, that what you suggested was on city agenda, city attorney's menu. I think that city attorney was pretty clear. Our options are to accept this recommendation or to reject the whole thing.
Okay.
Is that correct, city attorney?
So we may ask the city attorney then, could we also award this to two vendors and split the bid?
City attorney.
Is that on the menu?
Mr. Mayor, if I may respond, it's certainly, to the Vice Mayor, it's certainly a viable discussion piece, but before the commission this evening is the proposal for those who respond to presuming they get the whole contract. To break it up may require either a rejection and a separate proposal that would allow for a breakup between various vendors or otherwise. But the analysis I provided earlier, this is an ITB, it's a bidded item, there's no evaluation committee, there's no committee to send it back to debate, discuss, and reevaluate. So it's really kind of in your hands, which is you accept that as proposed, or you reject it and then retool the proposal.
Point of clarification.
Go ahead.
Thank you. And I want to clarify my reason for it, for making the deferral motion. We have some questions that have been answered tonight that are a little bit uncomfortable. And while that's not necessarily a problem, that's what we should be doing. We should be asking those kind of questions. But I don't want there to be, or to be left out there, an appearance to anyone out there listening to this that something happened that shouldn't have happened or something. And that's why my reason for deferral with answers and facts and if it comes in a memo, for, I don't care how it comes to us, but those, because it's important to me not only that my colleagues' concerns are heard and answered, but that the public out there also has good answers that are provided to them. And that's my point of clarification, Mayor. Thank you.
All right, on a motion to defer, call the roll, please.
Mayor, just so we know, we're not meeting until October.
Call the roll, please. Motion to defer, time certain.
We need the time, Mayor.
Right.
Next meeting.
Time's not the next meeting.
Next meeting.
Okay.
Time certain, next meeting. Go ahead. I'm sorry?
I did.
Commissioner Seipel made the motion, Commissioner Castillo seconded the motion.
Thank you.
Some clarification, Mayor, before I vote.
Clarification, Commissioner Schwartz?
Commissioner Seipel asked if there's a series of questions. What questions do you want to see answered, Commissioner Seipel?
Commissioner Schwartz, Commissioner Seipel asked a question. Go ahead, call the roll, please.
Mayor, I would like every question that my colleagues have put out tonight, specifically Commissioner Schwartz, be answered.
I thought we did.
So before we close this, if I may, Mayor,
go ahead.
I'm sorry, I have a question.
No, go ahead. Go ahead, Vice Mayor. No, go ahead.
Because
I'm trying to just keep this on a legal basis because I have to run the meeting.
I'm fine. We're asking. All right. I mean, if that's the case, the questioning. But one of the things that I heard that I did have that was alarming to me is that the staff was asked who reviews for responsiveness and who specifically, and the response was, don't know. And I'm a little concerned about that, to be perfectly honest with you, because the next question I have of that is, are those answers for responsiveness given in a verbal format, or are they in a written format from whoever is supposed to be making the responsiveness issue determination? So that's my question, is who did make the determination it was responsive, and is it in writing or is it verbal? But that's a huge issue for me.
So we got the question.
Okay.
We'll address.
I'm going to make a comment on the deferral. I'm going to vote for the deferral because there's some questions that need to be asked, so I'm going to support that. Call the roll, please, on the deferral.
Commissioner Seipel?
Yes.
Commissioner Castillo?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Good?
Yes.
Commissioner Schwartz?
Yes.
Mayor Ordus?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you all. City Attorney,
Yes, sir.
screwed up. I made a mistake here.
I'm shocked.
We have to put in addendum 1 in the consent, and I didn't read it in.
Well, in the revised printed agenda, Mayor, I believe it's in there. At least it is in.
Did I miss it?
I'm sorry. Oh, you did. I'm sorry.
Did I miss it?
You didn't state it. That's correct. So
Okay.
stating would be.
I want to put a motion on now to add.
And I'll be happy to read it to make sure the record
Go
reflects with clarity what it is that you're adding. May I read that, Mayor?
Yes.
Okay. The addendum is a very important one. It's addendum number 1, references 21-0816. It's an addendum to the 9/13/2021 consent agenda, which is part of what we're describing this evening. It's a motion to approve the proposed IAFF MOU, that's a Memorandum of Understanding, 2020-2021, which is a wage extension between the City of Pembroke Pines and the IAFF Local 2292. And that's on the day it's been published.
All right, I need a motion. Moved by Commissioner Castillo, second. Second. By the Vice Mayor. Discussion. Call a roll, please.
Commissioner Castillo?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Good?
Yes.
Commissioner Schwartz?
Yes.
Commissioner Seipel?
Yeah.
Mayor Ordus?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. All right, Commissioner Seipel, item 12, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Let me just get there. Motion to approve the department recommendations for the following item listed on the contracts database report. A, Saharaday, LEC, citywide filter replacement, IFB number, hashtag PSPW-20-15 renewal.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Castillo, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. I have just a very quick question to, I guess maybe City Manager or Mr. Buckland, I guess he left. City Manager, these are the filters that are in all of our buildings, and I know that we've discussed the different strengths, I guess, of the filters, and we're at the MERV 15, which is a very acceptable filter level. My question to you is, who verifies that these filters are changed on a regular schedule?
City Manager?
That is Public Services staff. They do maintain a log as far as the changing of these filters in all city facilities, not just our schools.
Okay, fine, but like say this building, are they done once a month? Are they done quarterly? What are the recommendations? What does the vendor, the maker of the filter, what do they call for?
Well, the system for the City Hall and the Great Hall is a unique system. I don't know if Geraldo or if they're going to get Steve to respond to that, if we can address that.
Okay.
There are some units, just the way they are made, cannot handle anything higher than what they were constructed
I know that
for.
we had some issues.
But Geraldo's coming down. Maybe he can address that for us.
Because we've had a discussion like this when we were talking about when we changed everything at the schools and everything on what they could handle and what their systems are.
There are different systems, that's correct.
Could you
Geraldo
give your
Hernandez.
name and your position, please?
Geraldo Hernandez, Public Services. So filters are changed every month, and there is a log and a schedule kept of every building.
Okay, that was my question, and it's Public Services that does that and keeps the log.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, that's my question. Thank you, Mayor.
But state your position again.
Assistant Public Services Director.
Assistant Public Service. Couldn't hear you through the mask. All right, any further questions, item 12? Hearing none, call the roll, please, City Clerk.
Commissioner Seifel?
Yes.
Commissioner Castillo?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Good?
Yes.
Commissioner Schwartz?
Yes.
Mayor Ordus?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Item 14, City Attorney.
Thank you, Mayor and Commission. Once again, if you will, item number 14 is item number 2021-20. It's a motion to pass proposed ordinance number 2021-20 on first reading. Proposed ordinance 2021-20 is an ordinance of the City of Pembroke Pines establishing the Merrick Square Community Development District, making certain findings regarding the district, describing the external boundaries of the district, naming 5 persons designated to be the initial members of the Board of Supervisors, providing for severability, providing for conflicts, and providing for an effective date.
So moved.
Thank you.
Moved by Commissioner Castillo. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Seifel. Discussion? Hearing none, call the roll.
Commissioner Castillo?
Yes.
Commissioner Seifel?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Good?
Yes.
Commissioner Schwartz?
Yes.
Mayor Ordus?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Mr. Mayor,
Thank you.
if you will, the second and final reading of this item is tentatively scheduled for October the 20th of 2021. And to that extent, that's tentative only because of publications. There's a requirement by state statute of 4 publications, which the applicant's counsel is coordinating with our city clerk in an exceptional way.
Thank you, City Attorney.
So far.
Item 16, sir.
Thank you. Item 16, Mayor and Commission, is as follows. It is a motion to adopt proposed resolution number 2021-R39. It's a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Pembroke Pines, Florida, amending resolution number 3722, abandoning of the allowed 60-foot wide access opening centered 230 north of Tract C2 South Platte, on the line of Flamingo Road, and adding 60 feet wide access opening restricted to the right turn in only centered at 266 feet north of Track C2 South Platte line on Flamingo Road, as more particularly described in Exhibit A, attached here to and incorporated herein, directing the appropriate city officials to take any and all action necessary to effectuate the intent of this resolution, providing for conflicts, severability, and providing for an effective date.
Motion? Is there a motion to approve? Motion by Vice Mayor, by the
Second.
Commissioner Schwartz, second by Commissioner Seifel. Discussion.
Yes, Mayor.
Go ahead, Commissioner Seifel.
City Manager, there's a lot of writing in here. There's a lot to understand on this. Could you give a brief explanation as to exactly what's happening with this?
Mr. Kennedy will come down and do that for you.
Mr. Chevron?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes, Carl Kennedy, city engineer. Yes, the Chevron gas station, they changed their site plan, and due to the site plan change, they had to move the entrance a tad bit farther north. So on each plat, there's a non-vehicular access line, and there's a break in there where the opening is, so the plat has to be changed. So they requested that the opening be moved a little bit farther north.
Commissioner Seipel?
Yeah, and so this all has to do with their whole site plan and how they're trying to redevelop their
Yes.
station there. And that's
Yes.
the simple answer to that.
That's it.
Okay, thank you.
Further discussion? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Schwartz?
Yes.
Commissioner Seipel?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Good?
Yes.
Commissioner Castillo?
Yeah.
Mayor Ordus?
Yes.
Motion passes.
The record, that number is number 3768, Mr. Mayor and Commissioner.
3768. Thank you.
Mayor. Thank you.
We're on item 17.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioner. Number 17 is a motion to adopt proposed resolution number 2021-R40, which is a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Pembroke Pines, Florida, authorizing the release of the cash performance bonds described in Exhibit A attached here too, directing the appropriate city officials to take any and all action necessary to effectuate the intent of this resolution, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, and finally providing for an effective date. Item 17 on the floor. Thank you, Mayor.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Seipel, second. Second by Commissioner Schwartz. Discussion. Hearing none, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Seipel?
Yes.
Commissioner Schwartz?
Yes.
Commissioner Castillo?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Good?
Yes.
Mayor Ordus?
Yes.
Motion passes.
That number is 3769 for the record, Mayor and Commissioner.
Thank you, sir. Item 18, sir. Regular agenda.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioner. Item 18 is an item that reads as follows. Discussion and possible action to approve an addendum to the request for qualifications. That's an RFQ, number PD 21-03 for citywide towing services. Attachments are made part of the record this evening under item number 18. Thank you, Mayor.
All right, what is your pleasure, Commissioners?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Schwartz. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Seipel. Discussion?
Yes, Mayor,
Go
quickly.
ahead, Commissioner Schwartz, quickly.
Commissioner Seipel, I don't want to speak for you. The concerns that you raised, I took a second look at what staff is asking us to do, which is now to make a decision for them.
I'm sorry, say that again to make sure I didn't hear.
The addendum, the addendum that's in the backup, the staff is asking us to make a decision based on the scoring for 18.
Where are you seeing that part of it?
Okay, that will be,
Is that all up on our screen?
yeah, it's the first
Isn't
one.
that already
Addendum
here?
one, the draft, yeah. That's,
That's what I'm talking about, right?
it looks like it.
With the criteria, with the points?
It's up on the screen now, right? So
Yes,
we
yes,
just scroll
yes.
that. Is that the same thing in your book?
Yeah, I saw that.
All right, I have color, you have black and white, I get it, okay. When, it was my understanding that when Commissioner Seipel asked about the equipment, it was to add additional points if people had additional equipment. I had a conversation, and Mr. Gomes, if you could come on down again. I had a conversation last week regarding this because I wanted to clarify my understanding of everyone's understanding. And I was under the impression that it was an all or nothing. Either they have it, they own it, or they don't. Not whether or not they have access to it in order to receive the points.
Mr. Gomes?
Is that how you understood it, Commissioner Seipel?
Can I respond, Mayor?
Sure, please.
Well, actually, I had my notes that I was going to ask Mr. Gomes.
Okay, so let me get it out on the table. So I asked Mr. Gomes. So the administration is planning on giving credit for just even having access to equipment.
Mm-hmm.
If we're being asked to be to score this, now we have to come up with the totals. The administration is recommending 100 points. You get 5 for this and 2 for that, so it adds up to 100. But it's still subjective. That it just still hasn't answered Commissioner Seipel hasn't answered what we had directed staff to do, which was an all or nothing concept. So for example, under this criteria of 20 points, if a vendor has Class A records that they own, they get 5, but if they have access via lease, they get 4, according to the conversation I had last week. That wasn't my interpretation of what we were trying to accomplish here. Also in the criteria, it was lumped in for, apologize, Mayor, it's a long document. It was lumped into experience and ability. This would be on online is page 8. I don't know where it is on your book.
What section number is it?
It's towards the end. I mean, it's 2 pages from the back in your book. So the criteria of experience and ability, it's based on size, diversity, condition, and location of the fleet. But it's not broken down into any criteria of what is the location, what is the condition. Is it brand new? Is it 10 years old? Is it leaking hydraulic fluid all over the place? There's no definitive way of giving one vendor 20 points and another one 19. So I don't.
What are you asking, Commissioner?
Well, I'm raising it because my comments to staff is I don't think we're any closer than where we were a week ago when we asked to break this thing out. But now staff is asking us to actually create the scoring sheet, so now we have to create a scoring sheet.
Commissioner Cycle?
Yes. Thank you, Mayor. The intent of my language from last time was that if you had Class A, because that's specifically what we were talking about, was equipment and getting into the heavy industrial equipment. If you had a Class A, you would get points for that. If you didn't have a Class A, you didn't get any points for it. Same thing with B, C, and D. You would get, or you either have it or you don't have it. So some of my questions tonight were actually going to be on the 1.7.1, where the weighted quantity of equipment, where you have a description of you have a vehicle, and then you broke it down into 3 firms for like examples of 3 firms. Well, if they owned vehicle one, say they own vehicle one, a Class A, well, do they share it? So my question was, how can you even prove that or guarantee that it's shared or not shared or only for Pembroke Pines, but yet you're willing to give points for that when we don't really have any way to prove that, nor that didn't even make sense to me.
Mr. Gomes?
If you lease it, if you rent it, if you share it, yes or no, it all broke down, and that was this just got a little bit too much.
Well,
because that was clearly not my intent. Was you either have or you don't have, and you would get a point. Whatever you guys designated was the point, and it looks like you 5 points if you have it, A, B, C, and D. And then you do have 5 points for the condition and location of the fleet. But again, who's going to determine condition? Well, location you can certainly figure out. You see it in the yard, or you don't see it in the yard. But condition and all that. So and even that at 5 points, I was very concerned about that only being a 5-point number, because condition of your equipment is extremely important, because you're going out to help something that's broken down. You better be in tip-top shape. Your equipment better be in tip-top shape. So I did have a couple of questions myself on, that I wanted to ask you about that, and this other little schedule that you have here with the, you know, you own or you share or you lease it, and, no, I'm not in favor of that, because my intent was, you have it, you don't have it. I did also, though, part of what was important, and again, was a question I was going to ask again tonight, and I had asked before, was if you were talking this, like you were owned or leased or rented, so that would mean there would be a contract, or there would be, I would owe the truck company, I'd have that. So who checks to ensure that I get awarded this contract because I checked all the boxes off on this saying, yes, I have, yes, I have, yes, I have, when all I did, oh, I guess you didn't want to hear what I had to say. All that it meant, I get awarded the contract, but in 3 months, I cancel that contract, or I cancel that insurance on that contract. I didn't see anything in here about who checks to ensure that these contract leases remain in effect. That's hugely important, I think.
Let's find out.
Well,
Mr.
okay,
Gomes?
we can find out.
Mark Gomes, Procurement Director. Great questions. I just want to clarify a couple things. First of all, there was a section about experience and ability that has 20 points. That's its own separate section. The following section talks about size, diversity, and fleet, and that's where we have the Class A records, B, C, and D. Each of those are getting 5 points. And then after that, we have the condition and location of the fleet. So each of those has their own separate sections and criteria for those.
But can I interrupt
sure.
you for 1 second on that? But, okay, so again, condition, you have to be a mechanic, I guess, to be able to verify the condition of a piece of equipment. And the location, you're going to get a yes or a no. You're within 10 or you're not within 10.
So just to clarify on that, that's two different things. So
Okay.
in the bid package on the location of the fleet, we ask the vendors to state where the fleet will be positioned. For instance, will some of the fleet be positioned within the city of Pembroke Pines, on certain intersections, warehouses, or will they just be sitting at the yard? So all of that can be considered by the evaluation committee to score that specific point. There's a separate section right under that called storage facility and locations. In that, there's a storage facility location, which also has a objective scoring process with determining the miles from a specific point in the city to where that yard is.
And Mr. Gomes, I understand exactly what you're saying.
Sure.
But part of the discussion has always been the storage facility location is important, okay, that they have one within that 10-mile.
Sure.
Okay. But as equally, if not more so, if they have more than one location, where is the equipment?
Agreed. And so that's why we have it addressed in two separate sections. One's the location of the equipment, and one's the location of the storage facility. But as in, when I say storage facility, I'm not talking about storing their equipment, which they may store some of their equipment.
So then you felt that the storage location was worthy of 10 points, but condition and location of the fleet was only worth 5 points.
So that's, like you said, determining the condition of the fleet is something that might be a little difficult. Storage location is something the commission talked about. They wanted objectivity. So we were able to easily calculate that based on miles on a distance. But
that doesn't answer that's not my question. My question is, according to this, you all collectively thought that the storage facility location was worth 10 points, but the condition and location of the fleet, the actual trucks that are going to do the work, only was a 5 point, worthy of 5 points.
So, yes, based on that. However, we also talk about Class A, Class B, Class C, Class D, and that equipment, that together just on that section is 25 points. We have to allocate certain points to certain different criteria, so that's why we presented this to you as the City Commission to let us know what you think on how you would want this to be done.
Okay, so it's very clear you have A, B, C, and D at 5 points.
Mm-hmm.
So you either have it or you don't have it.
is there a requirement on number of vehicles? Or if you have one Class D, you get the full 5 points, but if you have two Class Ds, you also get the full 5 points, and then if you rent, you get 0 points?
You either have it or you don't have it.
Okay, we can do that.
I mean, that was my intent, that you either do, that was the reason you're gonna get scored or you're not gonna get scored, correct? Because originally, we weren't even talking heavy we really, while it is Class D, it's really, C is actually heavy industrial as well, and D is super heavy industrial. But they both are usually always together as, because they do have the booms, and they have all the stuff that would be used for, other things. So, again, my intent and what I think we all voted on and understanding the intent was that, if you had that type of equipment, you would get the points. If you didn't have it, you didn't get it. But now you guys have kind of thrown a little ringer in here with this other little schedule that you have over here by awarding, if you own it, you get so much, but if you lease it, you get a lesser amount, and if you rent it, you get more than you get more renting it than you do leasing it, which I don't, whatever.
That might just be a misinterpretation, because,
That's what it says.
So there's multiple columns. One is also about if you share it.
Yeah.
So if you own it, and you don't share it, you get the full 1 point.
No, I know.
And then if it's shared, you get a 5%.
I know, I worked that out. Well, I worked that, no, I understand what he's saying, what he's saying. But my intent was you have or you don't, or you don't have. I mean, you have or you don't have. Why would you, if you have 5 points for having it, why would you get 4, 3, 2, 1 for not having it, based upon this other?
Mr. Gomes?
Yeah, my understanding was that from the previous commission meeting, after watching the video, after being here in person, the comment was additional points. So I didn't hear all or nothing. That's why we didn't interpret that way. Hearing you today, Claire.
Well, your additional point would be that you had it, so you got the 5 points. I'm not going to give you, if you don't have a C, I'm not going to give you 4 or something, and then if I have a D and I'm going to get additional, I'm going to get 5, I'm going to get 1 additional. That doesn't even make sense.
I guess the last interpretation was if we had 10 rented Class Cs versus 1 owned Class C.
Yeah, I think the question that I have right now, if you're saying they don't have a Class D or Class C, they get 0 points, how can they even serve the city?
Exactly.
So, I mean, it should be a requirement that they have it, and maybe the point structure should be on the quantity of each class that they have.
Yeah, Mr. Dodge, on that note, can you think of a reason why a proposer's background information or references would even have anything other than a check mark? Why would, in this scenario, why would we give the evaluation committee anything other than 10 points or 1 point? Why would an evaluator say, well, this reference is worth 8 and this proposer's background is worth 5? To me, you're either in the industry or you're not.
How is that different than experience and
yeah, experience and that
Hold
sort of thing, yeah.
on. Mr. Dodge, you want to?
I understand your point, but the fact is, you really need to evaluate who the vendor is. And when you say background information, I assume you're talking about, is it years of experience that you're considering? And if it is, the background information is, how many other cities have you served, or basically, I think that's more an experience than it is background information.
All right, Commissioner Seipel, let me ask this question.
Yes, Mayor.
We could discuss this all night. We obviously have some question. What is our goal here? What are we looking for?
You want me to answer that, Mayor?
I do.
My goal would be that we have a very good RFQ for towing services in the city of Pembroke Pines that addresses all the issues that this commission has brought up, and in a way addressing them makes sense, and that there aren't items listed in here that really don't make sense and just look like a way to give points.
Mr. Dodge?
When there's no, for example, Mayor, on this
we got you. We got you. Mr. Dodge, how do we clarify?
Well, you know, I certainly was not involved with the procurement as far as assigning points, but I think the point that was made, you either have the equipment in order to do the job, or you don't have it. So whether you get 5 points, 1 point, it should, in my estimation, that should be a checkpoint that you can do your job. The key elements, I think, if you're going to assign points to, would be in your storage facility regarding its location, its cleanliness, the safety of it for people going. Inside storage versus outside storage, you know, I don't know what the rationale, if you're towing a vehicle, the difference between inside and outside. And the location is points. References, I don't know if there's a need for points for references. You either have the references or not. In all fairness to staff, they had to come up with a criteria in order to say, well, based upon everything that they have heard, what the commission has said, it's really based on experience and ability. I guess on background information, I don't know, you're doing a credit check? Are you looking, how many complaints have they had from other communities? How well have they performed in other communities? It's really like interviewing an employee. You don't really give them points. You have to have the educational background. So here, if you don't have a Class C record, what good are you to us?
Mr. Dodge, can I ask?
So whether you own them, lease them, or rent them, it's having the availability and having a copy of a contract that they have a leased vehicle, and they have availability to it. It's a contract.
Mayor.
Hold on 1 second. Mr. Dodge, we discussed almost the same things at the last meeting. There's been some changes made. Obviously, the commissioners and that, we could talk about it all night and give suggestions. I need to know a conclusion where we can bring this in for a landing and get towing service for our city with the satisfaction of our commissioners. Mr. Dodge, how do you figure we do that?
Mayor, may I ask for a point of clarification?
And I'd like to weigh in too.
Mr. Dodge, to clarify a statement that you were making about under the storage facility, that little, and it says storage facility, 10 points. Well, inside you're going to get 5, outside you're going to get 5. Aren't you kind of like double numbers there? I mean, you got the facility, and part of it's going to be inside, and part of it's going to be outside. So
Mr. Dodge?
That's why I'm saying some of this, while I understand that staff has put a lot of thought into this, and I thank you all for doing that, maybe what we were saying, maybe we didn't make it as clear as it should be, and perhaps now we can get to that point of it being very clear to staff on what we as a commission are looking for.
What's your objective, Commissioner Seipel?
My objective is to get this as clear to staff as possible, the wishes and desires of this commission, so that staff can provide to us a good, complete RFQ that we can go forward with.
You wish to defer?
Again? No.
Well,
No,
we
I
have
don't
to,
think that
gotta
I
have
don't
an, folks, with all due respect,
You asked me
we
a
keep
question.
talking and keep talking. We gotta have an answer.
Mayor, you asked me a question.
Yes, I did.
And I was going to answer you.
Go ahead.
You said, did I want to defer? And I'm saying, no, I don't think that I
Okay.
want to defer. We've done this enough.
Okay.
But I think there are a few small items in here that we could give direction to city manager, to staff tonight to fix. And if they fix them properly, we can put this out and be done with it.
I thought we've been doing it. City manager,
Obviously, it wasn't
are
clear
you
enough.
clear on what we need to do?
Wait, I like
Not really, Mayor. I'm not, because
Well, that's what I'm saying. We just keep talking.
I'm not
We're not
clear at
what we
all.
want. I'm just trying to get some codification here of where we're going. That's all.
No, I
Okay,
hear you.
and if I may, Mr. Mayor?
Go ahead,
so
Vice
just
Mayor. Bring us
like
some
to add in a little
codification.
bit. So I too am, concerned about this matrix here. It was with the intention of either you own it or you don't. If you own it, then you get evaluated on that criteria. If you don't own it, you don't get evaluated on, you don't get the points. Simple as that. The element here about whether you own it and you get the full points, I'm just a little bit hesitant on that, and for me it's more like, you can go with quantity and condition. That's part of what makes that category up. So, if you own a unit and it's in great condition, and nobody else does, wow, then that's easy, because all this stuff is relative too. I mean, you're going to be looking at multiple responses to the bid. And you're going to be having to base it on what you got. And so if Company A has, 20 Class A's and no Class D's versus Company B who has 10 Class A's and 10 Class D's, there's a way that you can sit there and look at those and score them. But the condition has to be assigned to each of the classes, not as a
So what do
general.
you suggest?
Well, Mr. Mayor, if I may,
Go ahead.
I'm sorry,
Interrupt you, Vice Mayor.
I'm sorry, Vice
Go
Mayor.
ahead, Manager.
No, I don't want to interrupt him, I'm sorry.
Okay, so I was just, because you got condition and location of the fleet is like capturing it all. I mean, if you only own Class A and they're all in great condition and it's in good location, you're gonna get all 5 points. I think that you should have each one of them, just take the 5 points and just add it in there, and your review of the classes will be predicated on, do you have it, how many do you have, and what's the condition of them, and then you score it for each class. And if you don't have it, you get no points. You don't even score it. You see what I'm saying? So that way you can help that. And for the other items, I mean, you wrote it out. I mean, I'll go any way with the other stuff, but this matrix, no, you own it. And if you own it, then you evaluate the conditions.
So what's your suggestion?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I think the suggestion is being made understood. Is that right?
Not 100%. A couple of you had some different comments.
Okay.
I would like to also comment, and if you're, what I'm hearing now, if you have 10 A's and 10 B's and somebody has 20 A's and 20 B's, does the point system change for the greater number of pieces of equipment?
Sure.
Versus one who has one Class A and another one has two Class B. The other thing, in today's environment, not everybody in these businesses can own these trucks. They may do a lease. They may do a lease purchase. And sometimes it's much more cost effective, and you can transition your equipment over much better if you rent them or lease them. Every 3 years, you can turn it in and get a brand new truck. If you own it and you invest a few $100,000, you're going to want that just like a garbage truck for 10 years. And so the point system is very, very difficult. It used to be very, very easy when we issued towing contracts in the past. It was based on dollars. Whoever gave us the greatest franchise fee. The state took that away. We didn't go through all of this back then. You give me $300,000, okay, you got the contract, and you had to perform. So now it's becoming very, very difficult to do so. And I think, in my mind, you need to be able to have access to all of the equipment you need, either in the form of a lease, an ownership, or whatever you want to do, but you have to have a viable contract that you have the equipment. I think the storage is very important. How you rank the numbers, okay, you look at the facilities. Now, is the inside storage for their equipment, or is it somebody who smashes their Corvette and they don't want to leave it outside because it'll get destroyed with the weather? So, I mean, those kind of things you got to look at. I think if you're going to assign points, that's what you can do. I don't think it's fair to say you either have it or you don't have it.
Yeah, I don't agree to that.
Well, I'm just saying that's my opinion.
And I understand that, and I'm of the opinion that this doesn't stop anybody from getting a lease or renting one. You get the contract, you have to provide all the services, and if you win it, and it was because you didn't own something, well, they'll have to go out and lease it and rent it anyways, because they have to provide the service.
No, I didn't say that. They should have possession of it in some format.
I think this is all about ranking. I mean, if you have somebody that owns every one of these classes, clearly, hands down, they should have some kind of advantage over that. Not renting or leasing, they own them. That's the point that we're trying to get to. And if all of them can't own them, then, you know, hey, then it'll still fall out, and there'll still be a fairness to it. So for me, I don't like this, at all, the leasing or the rental.
Yeah, but
We would like a suggestion then as
Hold on a second. Hold
how
on
to
a
do it, and we're fine, whatever you decide.
Hold on a second, I haven't said much at all other than trying to get the debate. But when you say you can't own a helicopter, you can't own another huge thing, it would just be too costly, but you can have access to it. I don't think there's anybody out there that owns a helicopter and another heavy lifting device so I think when we heard that gentleman speak, they have access to it. So
Mayor, point of clarification?
Go ahead. Just
We
bring me home here.
we were not saying that you had, and I made it very clear several times, that I was not trying to tell someone how to run their business, that they must own this equipment. My concern was that they had availability to it, whether it be that they owned it,
Right.
or they leased it, or they rented it. So I want to make sure that that's very clear, that was a big part of the discussion, was not trying to tell someone how to run their business. I understand, you know, the financial part of it and the efficient way they want to run their business. That's not our call to tell them how to run their business. It clearly is our call to tell them what we want them to provide to our city and to our residents.
Right.
And I made it very clear why I was so adamant about the heavy industrial being C and D, was because just on the west side of town, we have so much more distribution centers out there that we have not had in the past, that are a big part of now. I drive out there all the time. The semis that come through out there are off of 27 because they're going to the distributor. That's what they do. They pick up and deliver, pick up and deliver. God forbid, there's all homes and there's schools out there. There's, if there is a horrible accident with one of these big semis, we need a company that's going to be able to take care of that.
So what do you think we should do?
Well,
We got to do something.
yes, we do,
Again,
Mayor.
I'll just come back to the fact that either they have it or they don't. This is
They
just
have
a
it or they
review.
don't.
And if you have it, then you evaluate it based on the number
Because
of that class and the condition of that.
Yes, because God forbid there is this horrible accident and they don't have a C or they don't have a D. What do we do then?
Makes sense.
You don't,
We gave you a 0, so it doesn't matter.
well, you gave them 0, but if they win the contract award, they still have to go out and lease and rent it. They still have to provide that service.
They need to provide
And
that
they don't,
service.
and they don't get the contract if they don't do it. That's not what this is all about here. This is not the contract. This is evaluating the best qualified company.
Correct.
All right, where are we going? Somebody take us there.
Yeah, Mayor, if I may.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
That's okay.
Bring us home.
I mentioned to Mr. Gomes, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but we agree that there's an opportunity for us to kind of let the vendors know what they can expect if this is going to be a 6-month contract or a 12-month contract. And when you take one vendor on and one vendor off, and one day on, one day off, I want it to be in 6 months. How I see this working for the city is probably no more than 2 vendors. However, I would split the day up just like we do with our X-ray unit that actually does the dispatch, which would be like a 12 noon to midnight and a midnight to 12 noon. And then 6 months later, those 2 firms would rotate. This way we have 365 days coverage. In the event that we actually have one of these catastrophic events, we actually have 2 vendors working that exact day. And that should take care of a lot of the logistical issues. I just wanted to mention that because currently it's not in the bid spec as far as what they can expect, what kind of day it would be. And my motion would be to have a 12-hour, a 12 to 12 shift, and then 6 months later it would rotate. If there's more than 2 vendors, then it would be an 8-hour.
Point of order, man. Go ahead, Commissioner Castillo.
Thank you very much. We have a police chief who decides these things. Our job isn't to operationalize his towing operation. Our job is to authorize an RFP. And I believe that the reason there is so much difficulty here is because the notion that we're after is completely and thoroughly fractured. There is no way to put in a point system without telling a company how to do business. That's what the points do. We have had in this city excellent towing services for decades. And if a tractor or any other large vehicle ever got into an accident here, and it has happened, the group that we have had and the arrangement that we have had has been sufficient to have it removed. There has never been a situation where we had to sit on a crash for a week because they couldn't find a tow truck to get rid of it. These arrangements are made within the industry. Some companies own a lot of equipment, some don't. They all have access to it, or they couldn't participate and do the job that they have been doing. We are inventing answers and solutions to problems that do not exist. And this is why I did not want to go down this path. We had a vendor doing a great job. All we had to do was renew them. The chief asked us to renew them. The staff asked us to renew them. They earned the renewal based on their performance. Now we go down this path, and there is no solution. And then we're going to start operationalizing how the police department does work.
You want to make a motion, Commissioner Castillo?
I'd like to make a motion to renew the contract pursuant to the chief's recommendation with the company that we have. They've done a great job.
Is there a second? I'll second the motion.
Mayor,
Discussion on the motion.
Robert's rule. If I may, it's a parliamentary question, ma'am.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor with a second.
Okay, it's a parliamentary question.
Go ahead.
The maker and second of the motion were in the minority. This has been brought up. There's a 180-day, six-month close. We did take this vote. It did not pass on a 3-2. It's inside 6 months.
On a clarification.
This is a debatable issue, and I think that the commission can debate the issue.
Okay, we debated it all night, right?
Well, you can continue to debate it, but at some point, debate has to end. That's the process.
That's what I'm trying to do.
But
find someplace.
What is before you this evening?
Crashes already.
What is, if I may, Mr. Mayor, what is before you this evening is the proposal from staff regarding the addendum. But the overall subject matter before the commission is the towing contract, which you control, and you have that authority.
Is the motion second okay? Is it legal?
It is legally in order.
Okay, there you go.
City Attorney, if I may, Mayor. City Attorney.
Go ahead, Commissioner Schwartz.
Thank you. City Attorney, this motion was made, and this motion failed within the last 6 months. How is that possibly legally on the table?
City Attorney?
The mayor and commission interprets Robert's rules in the context of its own application by its own custom and practice. If you would choose to implement a strict interpretation of the code in that regard,
yes, sir,
then you're correct.
Okay, well, the strict interpretation of the code is that the maker of the motion and the second of the motion were in the minority, and they can't bring anything forward.
City Attorney?
That's my understanding of our code.
City Attorney?
The interpretation would have to be whether or not the item that you're describing actually failed. My recollection may not, I don't know what the record was when the item was deferred. It might not have failed. It might not have been rejected, but it was not approved.
Correct.
That's an important factor.
Correct.
If it was rejected, then you're correct, but I don't know that it was rejected. I think
it was deferred.
I have to look at the record, but that would change the texture of this discussion.
All right, any further discussion? All right, it looks like we're going to have a motion.
So, if I may, City Attorney, if we are unclear, then certainly we can challenge the chairs. And again, I don't want to do this to the mayor.
No, that's all right. I'm trying to get a clarification.
Yeah, but certainly
we gave us one.
Certainly, if your recollection is unclear and we don't have anything in the minutes unclear, then three commissioners can overrule the mayor's decision to even recognize that motion. Am I correct?
Point of clarification,
Go ahead, Commissioner Castillo, on point of clarification.
City Attorney, assuming arguendo that this motion had been made before, had it passed at that time, it would have passed with that particular term from that date forward, right?
Yes.
So the motion that,
And we wouldn't be here.
and we wouldn't be here.
We
So
wouldn't
I
have
am
it.
now
We
making
wouldn't
a
have the
different
discussion.
motion that would have a different term, and a term is a substantive, contractual item, correct?
May I respond, Mayor?
Go ahead.
The term is controlled by the commission.
Okay, so this isn't the same, motion. The term of the contract will be different because so much time has expired while we've been creative. So so the motion has been made and the motion is seconded. It's a new item. Vote it up or down.
That's what I say too. All right, any further discussion? City Clerk, call the roll, please.
Read the motion again, please.
Thank you, Commissioner Seipel. The motion was to follow the police department's recommendation and to renew the contract with the existing vendor.
Okay. City Clerk, call the roll.
Commissioner Castillo?
Yes.
Mayor Ordus?
Yes.
Commissioner Seipel?
No.
Vice Mayor Good?
No.
Commissioner Schwartz?
No.
Okay, what's your pleasure?
Mr. Mayor, if I may, try to move this
Commissioner-
forward.
Vice Mayor?
Again, I just want to come back to the primary element that we had talked about, which was, these class of vehicles and getting points and no points. And so, again, I would just like to reiterate that we, first and foremost, take each class as being either you have it or you do not have it in order to evaluate that class.
Okay, but city.
That's just first
City
and foremost.
Manager?
You have to own that class
City
in order
Manager?
to be able to make.
Hold on, Vice Mayor. City Manager,
Yes, Mayor.
what the Vice Mayor is saying, why now, after all this time, do we have to pick apart something when it should be fairly easy for us to vote on? I know you said before it was an amount, you just voted on it, but we're, to me, going back and forth, and somebody else has got an idea. Give me some codification here, what we can base our opinion on.
Mayor, it really is a policy decision of the commission as to how you would want to rank them. So if there's a consensus that you must own the equipment, and if so, either it's a check mark or there's a score for it. And I don't know in that definition, would that score change based upon the quantity of the equipment or that you just have it?
All right, let me ask this question.
If someone who's submitting a proposal and they have one Class A, one Class B, one Class C, and one Class D, they can't do the job, I wouldn't think. But
Well, then I think you terminate the contract if they couldn't do the
well,
job.
this is the evaluation. This isn't terminating it. This is to evaluate them.
All right.
So do you give them 5 points for having something, or if they have 4 of each and you give them 20 points? I don't know.
So
You
I
have
have
to
it
come up with a
even-
score.
Hold on
No,
one second.
I still hold the
Hold
floor.
on, no, hold on. I'm the chair. I'm trying to get codification here. We've been on this 2 hours. I'm trying to get someplace where we can go.
understand.
Now, we had a motion, we had a second, it failed.
Mhm.
I'm asking as the chair to have another motion. Right. To where we want to go.
I have a motion.
Otherwise, we'll be talking to 2:00 in the morning, we haven't gone anywhere.
I have a motion.
Hold on.
I
Vice
wanna-
Mayor, I interrupted him. Go ahead, Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, because I only got through maybe a third of what I was to speak to.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So the first element was either you have it or you don't in order to evaluate that class. And then if you have the units, then you evaluate, you score it based on the quantity and the condition of that class. So if you have a lot and they're all brand-new vehicles, you get the highest scores. If you got a little and they're really old, you're going to get low scores within that class.
Up. Go ahead, Vice Mayor. Let's not interrupt. Vice Mayor wanted to make some points. You've got the floor. Go ahead, Vice Mayor. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. And so, and that's how I'm asking us to take the consideration. The other thing is that because we have a condition and location of the fleet, just roll those points up into the other classes. So right now you could sit there and say 6 points for each class. And so if you go to Class A, you got them, great. Now let's take a look at the quantities and the conditions relative to everybody else who has them. and you go through each and every class. And if you get down to the classes where they're very large and only 1 or 2 people have it, then only those 1 or 2 people are going to get scored on quantity and condition.
By Chief?
I have a question, Mayor, for the Vice Mayor.
Chief is coming up, Mr. Dodge.
Yes, so
Chief.
I hear what you're saying. So based upon the quantity and the condition of each class, then are you saying if we're no longer assessing 5 points if you have it, there would be a sliding scale? The more and the higher quantity would give a higher number. So we'd have to pick a number. It's either from 5 to 10.
No, within the 5 points for each class.
Oh, within the 5 points.
Yeah, within the 5 points, or actually take out.
So they could have a 5 or a 3, and before I heard it say it's 5 or nothing.
No, that's exactly what I'm saying.
Stop.
Is you base it on condition, if you have the vehicles in that class.
Right.
Then you score it based on the number of vehicles and the condition of those vehicles.
So if for the ones who have the highest, it would be a 5, but what if someone had less than that? They don't get any?
It would be less than 5.
Okay, so if you have a sliding
so let's just
scale
say everybody had
between-
brand new vehicles. One company had 10, the other had 5. You would automatically think maybe that company gets half the point. The one that has 5 would only get half the points that the one that has 10. It's the same way
I
you
hear
do
what
price.
you're saying. I just want to make sure we're
Very
clear
similar way you
on
do
the
your price.
scoring now, because I heard something
Well, I wanna be
differently
clear. I wanna be
earlier.
clear.
I know, and that's what I'm talking to my colleagues about.
Okay, all right.
Chief, you want to
Can-
get into this conversation?
Can I make one clarification?
Go ahead. Mr.
So when we look at the number of vehicles, we can make that objective, but if we add in condition, that's subjective. So now we're
Well, you
making,
can take it by the year of the vehicle as being a part of the condition of the vehicle. If it's a 2000 and 10 versus a 2020, you're getting an element of condition because you're getting the year of the vehicle.
okay, so if that's the only thing we're gonna look at for condition, we can do that, but I just need guidance on how many points would we allocate based on the year of the vehicle now.
This is all, again, relative. I can't tell you this is something that your team is going to evaluate, and you have to take a look at what everybody has in order to be able to do that. Sort of like the way you do pricing, right? Like whoever's got the lowest price gets the most points. Whoever has the next lowest price gets, a fraction less. This is a similar way you can do this as well, too, in my opinion. If I was sitting on that group, that's how I would look at it, is the number, and the condition would be based on the year of the vehicle.
All right, Mr. Gomes,
They're
you
very
want to say
objective.
that?
Both items are very objective.
Yeah, if that's the direction, to
we
make
got a
it
good direction.
completely objective on, number of vehicles and year of vehicle, we could come up with a calculation to make that work.
A point of clarification.
No. Chief, could you take the mic, please? I'd like to get your opinion.
Take it and run away with it.
Just like to get your opinion.
Well, I'm also thinking back to, I thought the intention was we were going to award multiple vendors potentially.
Right.
So we're going to have people scoring all kinds of different spots, and I guess,
Yep.
how's that going to work? Who's going to?
I don't know.
People, I'm sorry, I didn't understand what you said,
Sorry,
sorry.
In the original, when this first came up, there was a discussion, I believe, from Vice Mayor about how we were going to look to get a catalog of vendors, correct?
A library, no.
Of people that are all qualified, rotating on whatever schedule we set up.
Okay.
So now we're going to award, I guess, a winner. And then how are we awarding 2 winners, 3 winners, the top 3, the top 2?
If I may, Mr. Mayor,
ahead, Vice Mayor.
that's a really simple thing. If you're going to want 3 companies, you take the top 3. If you only want the top 2 companies, you take 2. If you want to take 10, you take 10. And you take the top ones that scored. That's the point behind scoring.
Okay. And instead of,
Did you understand that? Okay.
Yes.
instead of 100 points, Mayor, I mentioned to Mr. Gomes, it should be based on the percentage of the maximum points. So following the Vice Mayor's recommendation and following the city manager, you can, if you have 30 trucks, it's 150 points. Okay, it's a percentage of the maximum total. It's percentage, not 100 points, but it's percentage, and you rank them by percentage of the possible points that were presented.
So let me have a point of clarification. You're the chief of police. You have to call somebody and then, who do you call?
You're gonna call the vendors that we approve.
Which ones? How do you do that?
Well, it's,
You're gonna put it all on him?
no, sir, no, sir.
The top
I'm
three
asking a
ranks,
question.
the
No.
top three ranks.
Yeah,
That's how you do a library of services.
Do you call all three?
If you have 10 companies and you want 3 companies in your library
Mhm.
of service, you take the top 3 ranked companies.
But I have an accident. The chief's got to
Well,
call.
I'm not even going there. I'm
Well,
not talking about the operations.
Well,
I'm sorry to say that. I'm
you
not
gotta have
speaking
that
to
in mind,
I'm
though, the
speaking
operation.
totally to who you have in your library services, and then the operations call on, you make that call. I'm not making that call.
Now I'm totally.
That's not what I'm.
Now, city attorney,
Sir?
can you help me get some codification here so we can move on? Everybody's saying different things, in my opinion. Tell us where we can go here.
As the city attorney?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you need to have a motion that actually you can rally around and get a majority vote to
Well, that's
support
what
it.
I said.
So that's the starting point. That's how it works.
Okay, I'll
And
make
I'm
a motion. I'll make
May I
a motion,
have
Mayor.
a point of clarification?
Mayor, if I may?
Point of clarification from Commissioner Seifel.
Thank you, Mayor. We are talking here again about site, the number of and what type and all that. One question that I don't think has ever been answered, and if it has been answered and I didn't understand it, I apologize, but I'm gonna ask it again. City Attorney,
Yes, ma'am.
we had some discussion, and you clarified for me at the time. I was asking about the 10-mile distance and how that was set, and I was had always been under the impression it was set by the county, but as you clarified, it was our code, our
Correct.
city code. Okay, and we set it at what it is. Fine. And that was tied directly to the yard,
Location.
to the
That's
location.
correct. The
The
proximity.
question that I never got an answer to is, does that same 10-mile city code pertain to equipment?
City Attorney?
I'm not sure. No.
For example, my example was a business has more than one location.
Mhm.
One of the locations is within the 10-mile, our set 10-mile number. But on their other location is where they have some of the equipment, well, specifically probably more like the C or the D, that we are requiring that they have. So does our requirement, our code requirement for location, business location, yard location, have the same meaning for equipment? Does equipment fall under that 10-mile as well?
City Attorney?
And the reason that I ask that and think that it's an important answer is response time. And that's the whole reason that 10 miles or what have you was really put in there, was response time. So I never got a clarification on, does that pertain to equipment as well as location?
City Attorney?
I think a lot depends upon how you interpret the subject of your question, and I don't know how staff looked at that when they did their analysis of the 10 miles. And I'll answer your question, but I think that Mark needs to give you some clarification, and then I'll be happy to respond as to how staff looked at that issue, because I'm not sure it's completely defined in the context of dividing equipment from all equipment, or dividing locations and dividing equipment at the same time, because you raised the right question.
Mr. Gomes, you want to add?
Yeah, just to clarify, I don't believe there's a requirement in the city's code. There's a requirement in the bid package that's in front of you, that we presented to you. It states a 10-mile distance. That's how we've had it in previous bids as well. When it comes to the storage yard, where there's a objective calculation on how to score that. It's in the addendum in front of you tonight. In addition, there's a criteria regarding where to store the equipment, and that's more subjective. It's not a calculation based on that one. That's in the bid package. It's in the addendum for you to evaluate.
So, wait a minute, so location of yard, location of business is must be within our 10-mile radius from 13300 Pines Boulevard, okay?
Correct.
Must be within that.
Mm-hmm.
But equipment,
The trucks themselves.
the trucks themselves.
Point of clarification.
Well, I'd like to get an answer to my point of
She still got the
clarification.
point of clarification, Commissioner. Go ahead.
And that's why I asked City Attorney, is it just,
Madam-
is our 10-mile only location, or is it location and equipment?
Yes, we have the 10 miles for the storage yard, and we also asked the vendors to clarify where all their equipment will be stored. So that's being part of the evaluation by the committee.
Okay, so how does that then play out? If what you're saying is that equipment doesn't necessarily fall under that 10 mile, but however, we just want to know where your stuff is.
That's what he just said.
We just want to know where your stuff is.
I'm sorry.
I guess I might be a little confused on your question. However, if you drive through the city, you'll generally see towing trucks located within our city, and those are waiting for a tow. So they generally...
They drive around because that's where they are. They're out there, absolutely.
Agreed. So that's what we're asking the vendors to explain to us.
But you're not going to have a heavy-duty Class C and a Class D driving around town. You're only going to have them when you have an accident that calls for that type of equipment. So my question was, does that 10-mile pertain to all of the equipment? It has to be within 10 or not? And I'm not saying which is right or wrong. I just want an answer to that. Does it pertain to that or not?
We do not have a requirement for where your vehicles must be in regards to mileage. So if you wanted to state that, we could state it in the addendum. We can address that.
Thank you, Mayor.
Commissioner Castillo, point of clarification.
Is there any such company that has all of this equipment within a 10-mile radius of Pembroke Pines?
I do not know which companies have what equipment and where they're located.
So we may very well be arguing how many angels can dance on the head of a pin here. Because we may very well put out an RFP and nobody can answer it because we're trying to reinvent an industry that we, quite frankly, know nothing about. Is that right?
Well, actually, it's an RFQ.
Oh, either way.
On that.
Yeah, if we make certain things requirements and no vendors can respond, then we'd have
And yet
no response.
everything that we currently have right now is working pretty well, right?
As far as I'm aware.
Okay, thanks.
All right, where do we want to go, folks?
I'd like to renew my motion to award the contract to the existing vendor pursuant to the recommendation of the police chief.
City attorney, if that was voted down, can we?
It's the same meeting.
You're in the same meeting.
Okay, I'll second the motion. Discussion? Call roll, please.
The motion is to renew the existing vendor's contract pursuant to the original proposal.
Correct.
Thank you.
Pursuant to the police department's recommendation.
Commissioner Castillo?
Yes.
Mayor Ordus?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Good?
No.
Commissioner Schwartz?
No.
Commissioner Seifel?
No.
All right, we need a motion, folks, for direction.
Mayor?
Yes, Commissioner Seifel.
May I ask a question which might help get to a motion?
All right.
And I would kind of be asking this not only just of Mr. Gomes, but also my colleagues. We've talked about this criteria schedule that we have here, right? Where it had experienceability. We've talked about a number of these line items that are on here. Mr. Dodge, you've discussed a number of these line items that are on here. Can we, at this meeting right now, make some changes to what's in front of us right now to cover what we are asking to have changed and be able to then have Mr. Gomes put that as the RFQ to go out?
The attorney, can we do that?
I would say yes, Mayor.
Yes, okay. And the other part of my question was where we were looking at the other little schedule of weighted quantity of equipment on the next page where it was, you got so many points if you owned it or shared it or leased it or whatever, that we totally do away with that because I think we've addressed that in other manners. So I would ask that my colleagues that have thrown forward some suggestions on this one schedule that we have here under section 1.5 tab, I don't know what the tab number is. It's the criteria point table in section 1.7 of the RFQ.
Can you bring it up on the screen, please?
That one.
Yeah, right there.
That one right there.
Keep going.
If we could, if my colleagues would then, and as well as Mr. Dodge, the line items that you all have discussed here that had issues to them, that we could now take them maybe one by one and either make the changes or say, we're all okay with experience and ability at 20 points. If that's the case, go on to the next one and let's get that all fixed up. Can we do that, Mayor?
If I may, Mayor, to help move things along.
Commissioner, City Attorney, we can do that, right?
Mayor, let me be very clear, and I said this several times, which I'm not being repetitive, but I want to be clear. You control this document. This is yours. Your towing contract is a policy-driven item which you control and which will be operationalized by your city administration. So yes, you may control it. And at this point, what is before you is an addendum to what's already on the street. Is that not correct?
Correct.
So the cat's out of the bag legally. It's already out there. So what you're dealing with is an addendum which would then be published to all those people who have yet to either respond or who would seek to respond based upon the revised clarifications you may make this evening.
All right, Commissioner
After the
Seifel,
motion
you
to
got
approve
an
the original
answer
vendor.
of affirmative to your question. What do you want to do?
Mayor, I would like to have my colleagues, that have, and maybe we could, like I said, we could start with the first line, experience and ability, and go through each of those lines and have them tell us what they thought were the changes, and let's make those changes now and move on to the next one.
I'd like to weigh in on that.
Give us a point of what you want to do, Commissioner Seifel.
I just did, Mayor.
Well, specifically. Go to a point.
I thought I just did.
Oh, you didn't say, you said points. Go to a point.
Okay, Mayor, look at what's on the screen.
I'm looking at it. Which one do you want to talk about?
I want to start with the first one and work our way through it, because there were discussions about each of the lines.
Does anybody have any objection to that?
I have an objection, Mayor.
You have an objection?
I have an objection to a point that Mr. Gomez and I spoke about last week. I asked him, I said, how'd you come up with 100 points? And the response is, well, it kind of makes sense. You can get an easy percentage out of it. Well, not when you're dealing with multiple vehicles with multiple points and multiple conditions. It needs to be based on
That's not the way I was saying it.
It needs to be based on a percentage of total available points.
We all have our opinions.
The number of points doesn't matter, it's how they all relate to each other.
That's right. We all have our opinions. Commissioner Seifel,
Yes.
we'll start with you. What point do you want to look at?
Okay, Mayor,
Class A wreckers, tow trucks first?
no, stop, Mayor, stop.
Okay, I'm asking.
I have a recommendation.
What I was saying was that the very first line, because we're gonna go each line, we're gonna say, experience and ability. Is everyone on board with 20 points for experience and ability?
I'm not.
Yeah, and work our way through. Otherwise, you're gonna end up just still having this round discussion again unless we start dealing with each issue and you all say what your thoughts are and we agree to whatever a change or not change.
I've been trying to do that.
Okay, well, so Mayor, if you run the meeting, if you want.
I'm trying.
I have a proposal.
If you wanted,
Commissioner Seifel, you still have the floor.
thank you. If you wanted to start and go through each of these, because this is where their bone of
It's up
contention
to you,
is.
Commissioner Seifel.
Okay, well then I'm gonna ask Mayor, on experience and ability, colleagues, what is your thought on that? And are you okay with it being 20 points?
I'm not.
Okay, so city attorney, do I need to make a motion on each one of these to get a vote?
Yes.
Or do I do a consensus, or how do I deal with that?
I think for the record, because you're trying to manage a document and manage
Yep.
a schedule that
Yep.
is now before you as an addendum, each of you needs to weigh in by motion and accept it or not. So, for example, whether it's 20 points or 30 points or no points, there needs to be a motion on to carry that discussion.
Let me just ask a question, Commissioner Seifel. Let me just ask a question. Does anybody have a suggestion?
Yes, I do.
How could we take all of them and come up with an answer?
I have a proposal.
Commissioner Castillo, let's hear what you have to say.
I have a proposal. So if you look at Class A through D and condition of fleet, that's 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, right? So what if we give them each 1 point and take 20 points and make experience and ability 40 points? Because frankly, experience and ability should be more than 20 points.
No, I don't agree with that.
So if you take 40 points, or maybe you make these 2.
No,
Oh, okay.
Okay?
very one-sided.
All right,
for your feeling.
let's have somebody give some direction of what they want to do.
I was gonna vote against it anyway. I'm
All right.
trying to get out of here.
Mayor, Mayor,
folks,
if I could be recognized
Folks,
to make
it's
a motion.
9:41. We're gonna, just somebody give us some direction, please.
If I can make a motion, Mayor.
Go ahead, Commissioner. Commissioner Schwartz, go ahead.
Thank you. We're either going to make a decision on whether it's 100 points and divvy up 100, or we're going to make it based on the percentage of the available points. It could be 250 points and a percentage of 250. We need to make a decision right now. Is it going to be based on the percentage or based on the actual point total? Otherwise, we're not going to get home before Cooper City gets done.
Well, you know,
Okay.
no, I'm trying. Don't, you go look at the record.
Well,
I'm trying.
Mayor, if I may.
Jake is still there, by the way.
Mayor, if I may, I would like
Commissioner Seifel, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Something that was pretty evident in some of the discussion earlier on with our city manager, discussing the proposer's background information, which he felt like, if I understand correctly, that's almost the same thing as like our experience and ability. Is that correct, city manager? Weren't you, did I understand you correctly that you thought this background information didn't have a place in this mix here?
I think it ties in clearly with experience and ability. I think if you're asking me my opinion, I think the experience and ability should be significant points. The size, diversity, and condition, location of the fleet should be significant, as well as the storage of the facility. Those three categories. I don't know if you need points for references. I think we need to check references. It's very easy to get a reference from somebody. You don't put a name down if they don't like you.
They're certainly not going to give you if they have a bad one and bring it into you and say, here, look what I got. So then perhaps we could do away on this matrix here with this background information column or line, as well as this references, because they don't really seem to make much sense. And we want to hold tight. I think we all want to hold tight to our local vendor. The question now would be discussing the storage facility and locations. Well, 10 points for the storage facility. So all I'm seeing there is that you have a storage facility and you get 10 points, because it only starts. Is that correct, that they have a storage facility and then you get some points if you have inside, you get some points if you have outside, and storage facility location, you get 10 points for that, but you're required to be within 10, so why are you getting points for something you're required to have as a means of getting awarded the contract?
Sure. The easiest point here is divided into three categories: experience and ability, 30 points; the size, diversity, 30 points; and the storage facility, 30 points total, and give 10 points for local vendor preference, and there you get 100 points if you want to go that way. If you want to go a
City manager,
percentage,
would you make that motion, please?
I don't think I'll get a
make that
second.
motion?
I would make the motion. Okay, say it one more time for me.
Yeah, repeat it, please, City Manager.
One more time, because I want to make sure I have all your numbers right.
Okay, but there's another caveat to that after we do this. You've got experience and
And
ability,
right.
30 points.
Yeah.
The size, diversity, condition, location of the fleet of all those classes would be 30 points. And the storage facility locations would be 30 points, and that takes into consideration the location, the storage, inside, outside, and then 10 points for local vendor preference.
So under your scenario, let's say under storage facility and location, and it's a 30-point category.
You have to meet our criteria of what we want. You want them within a reasonable distance of the city. You have to look at the quality of the storage facility. And if you believe inside and outside storage, well, I don't know why it's outside. It's either...
Well, because sometimes, and I know you cited something that someone had a wreck with their Corvette and they don't want it left outside. The reality of it is it could just be an old junker car that someone uses all the time. And if it's in such an accident that it needs to be protected from the weather, it must be kept inside. It can't be kept outside.
All right,
So it's not just the guy, not just that hot Corvette guy.
But even under that scenario, you've got to make a decision, and I know the vice mayor believes, and I may be wrong, and I don't mean to just quote you, Mayor, that in the size diversity, it's all or nothing. But then I thought, well, maybe it's a sliding scale, and maybe that's where the percentage amount comes in as to how do you quantify the percentage? How do you quantify the fleet? Is the fleet all designated for Pines, or is it a large company that has a huge fleet, but they've got 8 cities, and how do we know if they're going to be available when we need them?
All right, Commissioner Seipel, do you understand the question you asked?
Yes, I do.
Okay, what do you want to do?
If I may just chime in on that.
Yeah,
So,
please.
Chime in on
I
that.
never said all or
Vice Mayor,
nothing.
I asked her what she wanted to do. What do you want to do?
No, I just want to make it clear, I didn't say all or nothing. I agree to
What's
a
that?
sliding
I'm sorry.
scale and element.
Oh, okay, all right.
But I so I see your price, 30, 30, 30. I think it's still important to be able to, ensure that anybody who owns every class of these fleet of units gets, the advantage points,
Right, the 30 points
right,
or whatever.
Right. So that has to be weighed in as well. But when you get down to the 10-point for the local vendor, I still think the references are just as important. So I think that a 5 and 5 split on that
That's
would
fine.
be something that I would be better with.
Want to make a motion?
If you got
Vice Mayor?
somebody
Yeah, I think that's
Vice
terrible.
Mayor, you want to make a motion?
No, I'm gonna leave that to,
Oh, you're going to get back to her now?
yeah.
Okay.
I just
Commissioner
waiting on
Seipel?
my
Yeah,
statement.
You want to make a motion?
Oh, God.
Vice Mayor,
Vice Mayor?
when you just said, because I heard, I could hear part of what you said, and I didn't hear all of what you said, when you discussed the, A, B, C, and D, would you repeat again what you said on that
Vice Mayor?
portion of it?
I was just saying that any company that owns every single class, if they own all these classes, they should be, advantaged for that, as opposed to, if you got every one of your units is a Class A, you don't own any B, Cs, or Ds. I don't think that should be you shouldn't get like super high points for that. So on a sliding scale, the more classes of vehicles that you own, I think you should be awarded for that.
So with
Rewarded for that.
what city manager brought forward of making that whole section there be 30 points, a maximum of 30 points.
Mm-hmm.
So what you would be saying then would be if company had A, B, C, and D, possibly they would get 30 points. If they didn't have D, they would get something less than that.
Mm-hmm.
And would that be a specific number, or would it be, my colleague keeps talking about
Any number you
percentages?
come up, any number you come up with,
Well,
just a number.
Well, work it within the 30 points.
Yeah.
Do that.
but then that would be whatever, it could be 29, is 29?
Bingo.
Is 29, if you don't have D, if you have D, you get 30. If you don't have D, you get 29. What
No.
difference does that really, how does that really help to differentiate? So it would have to be some, either a number, we'd have to designate that it drops down a certain number or a certain percentage for each that you have or don't have, right? Otherwise, you get 29 as opposed to 30 when you've gone, as a company, you've gone way above and beyond to have D or C.
Just remember,
So
if we're,
then each one of them independent.
just remember, if we're confused, our valuation committee's gonna be very confused.
That's why
I wanna give them direct.
That's why, Mayor, that's why I said whether it was either a specific number or
All
a
right.
percentage.
What do you wanna do?
Can I ask Commissioner Seipel a question, Mayor?
Go ahead, Commissioner Schwartz.
Okay. City manager and I are in agreement that this is 3 categories. Okay, equipment, storage, and other. Let's just say other for the time being. So what are we going to put? Are we going to have the other be as equal to the equipment? Is other going to be equal to the storage facility, or is it going to be weighted for the actual equipment that's available to our city?
Commissioner Seipel?
And that's the reason why I'm looking at a percentage of category
Well,
to come up with the total point here. If we have, I think that we have, we're getting really close, Mayor, to bring this thing in for a landing. We have three segments.
I don't see it yet, but you might.
We have three segments. The question is what is the weighted average? What is the weighted point total? And the percentage is basically the way, I think, the way to go. Not everyone's going to have the same facility. Not everyone's going to have the same equipment. Not everyone's going to have the same ability. So what are we going to give the evaluation committee? Mud on the wall, and they can't come up with anything at that point.
Mayor?
So we have to rank. If we're going to rank vendors, we need to rank in what we believe is the most important thing.
All right. Commissioner, you wanted to ask a
Yes,
question?
Mayor?
Seipel question. Commissioner Seipel.
Experience and, let's talk about this scenario for a second. Experience and ability, let's look at the screen. Experience and ability, if we are kind of trying to follow the three categories that colleague and city manager brought forward. Experience and ability at the 30 points y'all were talking about. And then when you get down to the next one, which is your A, B, C, and D, if you have all four of them, did you guys want to include condition in that as well of each of the items, or was that a separate item?
I think
if you had all of the equipment, A, B, C, and D.
Let's hear what he has to say.
I think because you're saying is the condition, you have to include that. And again, if you break it down this way, the only way an evaluation committee can work is that we're going to have to set up those criteria.
Okay, so what I'm saying, City Manager,
so that
is if you're looking at A, B, C, and D.
Commissioner Seipel, let him finish.
Well, I was going to answer his question.
Well, let him finish.
No, I'd like to hear what.
Okay, A, B, C, and D, which includes condition of each of those categories. If in fact you get, if those are going to be 30 points, you get 30. If you get there, below the next one below that's going to get 10 points off or 8, whatever the number would be. But we would specifically say and give that direction, like you're asking for the evaluation committee to have what we're saying to them, 30 points, if that's it, or if that's the number we're going to use. If you have it all, you get the 30. If you don't have all of it and it's not in good condition, you get whatever number we deem below that, 25, 20, and go on down and do the same scenario with your storage facilities, and be able to rank it that way on condition.
I do agree with Commissioner Schwartz. Don't fall over, but I think it needs.
It's on recording.
I think it needs to be based upon the quantity in some form of percentage, only under the size, diversity, and condition.
Yeah.
And it's just those four categories. The condition and location of the fleet in that category doesn't need to be there because it falls under storage facilities location, which would talk about where you want it. But you have to set up the criteria for procurement so they know how they're assessing the evaluation of this.
So, Mr. Dodge, how would you set that up then if that's what you're thinking of?
What I would like to do, in all honesty, is
and how would you account for it?
I would, in all honesty, based upon everything we're hearing tonight, give us, the staff, the opportunity to come up with that criteria. Instead of 5 points, and 10, we'll come up with a category of 3 different categories, one for references, one for local preference. And then what we'll do is we'll also give you the formula for how we'll assess it.
Can you bring that back at the second budget meeting?
Well, no, you can't, because that can only be for the budget.
Special meeting.
We can bring it up at the first meeting
Bring it back on the 22nd.
But Mr. Dodge,
we're not losing any money.
Does everybody agree with that?
Well, we have the I think it's October 4th or October 7th is when the bid was going to be open. I mean, it'd be great if we can bring this thing in.
September 7th, right?
We can delay it for a couple of weeks.
It got pushed out.
Well, we can delay it for a couple more weeks. It's not like,
So October then?
There's something in front of us.
contract's still active, so
I like
we'll just
your
give it
motion.
a few more weeks. We'll take one more stab at it, but we'll give you the criteria by which we will evaluate it based upon what you're looking for and what I believe I've heard everybody say this evening.
We agree by consensus?
Well, yeah, and I would hope that all discussion that has come out here tonight will be addressed.
Well, you know what we'll do? We'll give you our criteria ahead of time. We'll email it to you, and then you can give us your thoughts individually.
That makes a lot of sense.
If you believe we didn't capture what you said
That
this
makes
evening.
a lot of sense,
We
yeah.
have a focal point. Yay.
Okay.
That
All
makes
right.
a lot of sense.
Nope, nobody disagreed. I asked.
I say call AAA. It makes it so
Okay.
much easier.
Let's go on to 19.
So
City Attorney.
consensus is what we just said, right?
Yeah.
Good, okay.
Good discussion, everybody. A little lengthy, but good.
Thank you, Mayor.
That was awesome.
Yeah, sure. City Attorney,
Thank you,
item
Mayor. Number 19 for the record is discussion
Thank
and
you, Mark.
possible action to appoint an education representative and a business representative to the Charter High School Advisory Board for a 2-year term commencing October 1, 2021 through the year September 30, 2023. Number 19 on the record.
I'd like to nominate, and I'm trying to pronounce.
No, we have to have a motion.
You do.
You have to have a motion. You want to make a motion?
I make a motion.
To do what? Appoint an education
To appoint
representative. Is there a second?
Shahab, oh.
Is there a
okay.
second?
Second.
Okay, second by the vice mayor. All right, the motion is to appoint an education representative and a business representative to the Charter High School Advisory Board for a 2-year term commencing October 1st, 2021 through September 30th, 2023.
And I would like to nominate Shahab Uddin Khan as the representative. His application has been provided here.
All right?
Excellent background.
All right. Well, let's make a motion to approve it first, then we'll go into.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought we did, Mayor, I'm sorry.
All right, so there's a motion and a second on the floor. Call the roll, please, City Clerk.
Commissioner Seipel?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Good?
Yes.
Commissioner Schwartz?
Yes.
Commissioner Castillo?
Yes.
Mayor Ordus?
Yes.
Motion passed.
Now, Commissioner Seipel, we can,
Motion to appoint Shahab Uddin Khan as the education representative.
all right, there was a second by Commissioner Schwartz. Further discussion? Hearing none, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Seipel?
Yes.
Commissioner Schwartz?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Good?
Yes.
Commissioner Castillo?
Yeah.
Mayor Ordus?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, City Clerk, Commissioner Seipel,
What, Mayor?
the business representative. We appointed an education representative.
It was my understanding, Mayor, that, wait, where's the number? I lost it now.
It was one of them, right?
No.
Yeah, it was just for one of them because they both were looking not to be the business rep, they were just looking to, right? That was my understanding.
City Attorney?
If I may, Mayor?
Yes, City Clerk.
One of the applicants is for the business and one is for education.
That's what I said.
They're two different applicants.
Correct.
So we need another one.
I thought we did that. I thought there was too much.
No. There's only one motion to appoint.
I'll move the second.
Okay, but according to the application, I don't,
Commissioner Seipel, you've got an interpretation from the city attorney. I need another motion.
I moved the second one.
okay,
I'll move the
fine.
second.
Who is the second one?
It's the one that's listed.
Olga Corbin.
I want it in a record.
Olga Corbin to be the.
All right, now we're playing with eggs. All right, motion and a second. All right, discussion.
Business.
City Clerk, call the roll. Vice Mayor
I'm sorry,
and
who
Commissioner
made the
Schwartz.
motion?
Vice Mayor made the motion, Commissioner Schwartz made the second. That's all right.
Fine, it doesn't matter.
That's
Let's
good.
go.
Commissioner Castillo?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Good?
Yes.
Commissioner Schwartz?
Yep.
Commissioner Seipel?
Yes.
Mayor Ordus?
Yes,
Motion passed.
thank you. Thank you all. Have a wonderful evening.
City Attorney, anything? Nothing, man?
Oh,
See you.